just when you thought it was safe to go back into space, we're back with part 2. All right, Mr. Salem, let's bring us into the end of the quadrilogy.
Yes. Alien Resurrection.
Yes.
Now, this one it takes place 200 years later.
Uh-huh.
After Alien 3. It essentially opens up with, I'm trying to remember. It opens up, they're on the ship, right? The military ship. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, whatever.
They're heading towards the science ship, essentially. The station. Station?
Well, it's like it's just a big ass ship. I think it's like just a giant ship because it's 200 years in the future, so they got like ships that are like cities almost or whatever.
Yeah,
but they also said the crew was only like 40 something, which is
insane,
right? For how big it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so does it open up with the Betty going up, or do they open up with more of the lab stuff first? I thought they did the stuff with Ripley first, then the surgery.
I don't recall.
I don't remember.
It's that unmemorable.
Anyway, well, okay. I'm going to say they start off with the surgery thing. Anyway, so basically, what they do is they clone Ripley.
Yes.
In the future from some blood sample or something that they had gotten from the prison planet in Alien 3, which is odd because they say two different things about that movie. Sometimes they call it Fury 161, and sometimes they call it Fiorna 16.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the same thing with two different names or if somebody just doesn't understand what the names are. I'm
pretty sure it is for the Farina in Alien 3.
Well, yeah. I don't know. There's the two names that they call it. I mean, they're close enough. They start with an F and they have the numbers 1-6 in them. So, we know that they're talking about the same place. Anyway, so there's some kind of blood sample that they had there. They cloned Ripley. They show Ripley getting surgery, essentially getting her chest cut open. They pull out the queen, whatever, right?
Yep.
And then they essentially sew her back up. They decide to leave her alive. So obviously what they're doing is the main focus is the queen. That's what they really want. But they decide to also keep her alive as like a side thing. So they show a little bit of her development. So they show it to where like she can remember things somehow. She like has at first she has like rudimentary like caveman speech almost, but it's pretty quickly that she remembers how to talk. She remembers things about herself. I mean, obviously there's big holes in her memory, but she does remember who she is. And a story of like what happened with her and the aliens. I mean, some of this stuff's mixed up, but again, for the most part, she remembers stuff. They're showing like flashcards and she remembers things. This kind of stuff like that. Anyway, showing that she is not just a meat clone, but she's actually remembering things. And they talk about how she's able to remember these things because the aliens themselves have, what do they call it? Racial memory. So where they can pass down memories through the generations.
Yeah. Yeah.
So essentially because of the blood sample that contained the two elements and they weren't able to separate them completely, the thing that she ended up getting out of the deal more or less was she got this racial memory. So she got the ability to remember things through her blood and genetics. And it didn't just become as a part of the cloning process. I appreciate that because a lot of times, people get cloned and they somehow have their memories and it's like, how? You're just cloning
there's no
meat.
way.
Yeah, you're cloning meat. I mean, they'll look exactly the same, but they're not going to remember anything. They don't have the experiences, whatever.
Yeah.
So this one, at least they gave you a rudiment, some kind of explanation as to how that happened. So I appreciate that. Anyway, so we basically get that they got the queen. They're doing experiments with aliens. Blah blah blah. So Ripley is a prisoner in this ship. She does remember who she is. They let her have free reign of the ship sometimes, at least somewhat.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, she's contained there. Okay. Then we go to the ship, the Betty, which is going to dock with this big ship. And it's like a kind of a motley crew of mercenaries. So you have the captain, who is Michael Wincott, who I love him. I mean, he's awesome and just about everything that he's in. He was in like so many movies in the 90s, and then he just kind of disappeared. He came back in Nope, though. I appreciated that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, I mean, he is still around. I just haven't seen him in a while. And anyway, so he's like the captain of the ship. You got a bunch of cool characters. You got Ron Perlman, who's like the kind of like the meathead. He's more like the Jane of their the Jane Cobb of their Firefly crew. He's just there to like hurt people. And then you have Winona Ryder, plays Call, who's kind of like, I don't know, like a mechanic's assistant or something. I mean, I guess
something like that.
I guess that's what she is, because she's always helping the mechanic dude. The mechanic dude, I don't know his name. He's a French actor. He's in a lot of other French stuff. I knew him because I know the director of this movie. He also directed The City of Lost Children. If you've ever saw that.
No,
it's a weird movie because it's a French movie, but it stars Ron Perlman, who doesn't speak French.
I can't speak French.
So yeah, he doesn't speak French. They basically had to like coach him what to say before the scenes. So like they tell him what to say and then he says it. So he's speaking French in the movie, but he doesn't know what he's saying. It's like how the one guy who did the Crow City of Angels, I forgot what that dude's name was, but he didn't speak English. They basically told him what to say, and then he said it, but he didn't know what it meant. He's just saying it. Anyway, so I liked that movie because it was a weird, bizarre movie. And then so I knew this director, and of course, Ron Perlman worked with him because he knows that guy. But this French dude who plays like the mechanic guy who's like in the wheelchair. He's like a paraplegic in a wheelchair.
Right.
He is also in that movie, so I knew him from some other things. Anyway, so who else is there? There's Christy, who's like their second in charge. Who's like their kind of sharpshooter guy. And then he also has his co-pilot, who is the Captain Elgin is Michael Wincott's name, and then his girlfriend is like his co-pilot kind of thing. So they dock up with the ship. Obviously, they're delivering things that are like illegal cargo to the thing. You get the guy. I don't know his name, but he's been in a whole bunch of other stuff. They like the general guy with the hairy arms.
Yeah. Oh, that was he was the dad at Night at the Roxbury.
Okay, I never seen that, but I'll take your word for it.
He's played generals.
Yeah, no, he's been in a whole bunch of stuff. I just don't know. I just don't know his name. But anyway, so he like pays them in cash. They talk about how rare cash is because obviously even in our society, cash is becoming more and more rare. So I can see hundreds of years in the future not being much cash at all. But
right.
Yeah, so basically they get cash. They make a deal where they get to like hang out at the station for a couple of days. As kind of like an R&R type of thing because they have all the facilities because the ship is gigantic. They probably have like a mall and everything. It's that big to where. Right. Anyway, so they deliver their cargo, which looks like coffins, but I mean, we don't really know what they are at this point. So they deliver all that kind of stuff, and then they're all kind of like just hanging out and drinking. They have a scene where they meet Ripley playing basketball, to where Ron Perlman's character, whose name is Johnner, he tries to like hit on her. And she just kind of like, is playing games with him at first, like, just playing keep away with the basketball and eventually like beats the crap out of him. And then, Christy comes after her with like a weight, like a barbells, and she beats the crap out of him too. Just kind of like showing that she's strong, right?
Yep. She's not the same Ripley.
Right. Yeah. She sees her and like, you can tell there's some kind of weird recognition, right? There's something going on there. Like, she recognizes her, she knows who she is, she knows something's going on. So eventually, they kind of call Ripley away, and then she goes back and has to go in her cage.
Yes.
And then after they go and they're drinking, they're watching like QVC for mercenaries. I mean, it reminds me of like Cowboy Bebop, like when they watch the QVC with all the guns and the knives and stuff.
I'll take your word for it.
Whatever. Yeah. So that's what it is. They're watching like a guns and knives QVC. Call is like drunk, and she's like trying to drink with boxing gloves on, and spills her drink, and like John and Christy, the other two that she's drinking with, they get mad, they kick her out, and she leaves, and then you can see as she leaves, like she immediately sobers up, like she was just pretending to be drunk, and then goes to Ripley's cage, hacks it open. She has like, because in this future they use breath as like a biometric. So like the way that you open a door is you have to breathe on it, and she's got like all these little like spray bottle things, and then she has to test a bunch of them before it finally lets her in. She goes in and she goes up to Ripley with a knife, like she's gonna cut her throat. Ripley is just awake and just says, "What are you doing?" And they have like a weird thing to where Call knows who she is. And she's there to kill her because of what she represents and what she could possibly do, right? She ends up finding out that the alien has already been cut out of her. So that was the main reason why she was going to kill her. But that also
logically makes sense,
right? Yeah. And then also there's like some kind of genetic splicing there, because she shows, she like basically Ripley stabs herself with the knife in her hand, and it's like she's got like acidy blood, not quite as bad as the aliens, but it is acidy and burns stuff, right?
Yeah.
So she sees that there's like some kind of genetic splicing going on here, but the worst part of it is that the queen has already been cut out of her. So like now, basically her mission becomes to find out what's going on with the queen. And then Ripley also knows that she is there to whatever, kill her somehow, destroy the aliens or whatever, some secret mission or something.
Yeah. Yep.
So they basically, because she broke into the place, as she's leaving, they catch her. So they basically label her a terrorist. They're going to arrest her. So of course they assume that the rest of the crew is working with her as well. And the rest of the crew is like hanging out in the basketball court. So they go into the basketball court to arrest them, essentially. And there's a bunch of like soldiers coming in there being all hard asses, like pushing them around and stuff. And essentially it gets to the point to where they're going to get killed. Like they're trying to talk their way out of it. They're trying to talk them down. They bring Call in. Call eventually basically admits that she was there to basically kill Ripley, to, shut this thing down. She knew what they were doing there. And even though they didn't know what she was doing, they're still accomplices. So, the head doctor guy basically says, yeah, you're all going to die. So at this point, they're like, okay, well, we're not going to get out of this. So Christy has two guns like attached to his arms, like quick draw holsters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That he can't remove.
Yeah, that he can't remove. So he ends up shooting people. Shooting a bunch of people. Johnner has like this thermos that he was like drinking his homemade hooch out of, which turns into like a shotgun that he shoots people. So yeah, the other co-pilot, chick, I don't remember her name, but she like, takes out one of the guys and takes their gun. And so they basically take out all the soldiers. Some other soldier comes in, puts a gun to Christie's head and like tells him to drop the guns. And he's like, yeah, I can't, they're attached, like you can't do it. And he's like freaking out and screaming, like he's obviously panicking. And then Christie like shows off his sharpshooter skills and like ricochets a shot off like a couple of wall panels or something and hits the guy in the head.
Yeah.
So yeah, at this point we know that they're like, top notch mercenaries. So they pick up all the guns and stuff. They basically go, okay, like this is bad. We need to get the hell out of here. Let's go. And then we cut to, they show that the aliens have now been hatched. They show that the cargo that they had brought in with them was actually cryo-sleeped people that thought they were going to like some mining colony or something to go to work. But they ended up waking up strapped in front of an alien egg.
Yeah.
So yeah, the eggs, go on their face, whatever, and they end up hatching and becoming xenomorphs. Now, the time frame for these is a little iffy, because they do say that they want to stay at the ship for 2 days, and they don't specify how long they were there for. So, I mean, this could have been the second day. So, it's very possible that these people could have gone through the normal life cycle of an alien at this point. So this one, I can't really fault the timeline. Because at least they gave themselves enough room to work with.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's fair.
yeah. So now they're showing that the scientists have the xenomorphs in like cages. They're like basically trying to train them or whatever. I don't know what that guy
reinforcement.
was.
Negative
Yeah.
reinforcement.
Right. Yeah. Like that Brad Dourif guy is like trying to like I don't know show that he's the boss or whatever it is.
Right. They try to escape. He sprays them down.
Yeah, well, he basically tries to like attack the glass, and he freezes them just to show him like, "Hey, I can freeze you." It looks like steam, but it's like cold steam, whatever.
It's like spraying a cat or a dog with a spray bottle. Is what he's doing,
right?
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Yes.
And then a bit later on, there's like all of a sudden now there's 3 aliens in a cage, and then they try to get out. And he's spraying them, whatever, and they basically decide that the only way they're going to get out is they're smart enough to figure out that their blood is acid. So the 2 of them kill the 3rd one. And then
yes, it was an interesting thing that they show, like just kind of the second mouth coming out and just jabbing in lots of different places.
Right? Yeah, they essentially like stabbed him all over the place and like ripped his guts out.
Yeah.
To the point where there was like a puddle of guts on the ground, and then the puddle of guts ate through the floor, and they all escaped. So by the time he hit the steam again, they were already gone.
Yes.
And then they do show a scene where some security guy goes into the cage. I don't know why to look and make sure they're not hiding, and I don't know, whatever. But as he's inside the cage looking around, one of the aliens hits the button and freezes and kills the guy. I think just to show that they have some form of intelligence is, I believe, what they were going for. Yeah. So anyway, so essentially at this point, all the aliens have escaped. So we go back to the crew of the Betty, who is now, they have all of them plus the head doctor guy, and then I think one soldier, who, just kind of just put his hands up when they were killing everybody. So he's around with them. So they're, traveling down. They're basically out. They're all like armed. They all have like at least 2 guns, and they're all like trying to move down the hallway. Elgin, the leader, he sees like a gun sitting on the floor down this other hallway. So he like stops, walks away from everybody without saying anything, walks down this hallway, picks up the gun, and then he sees another gun down the hallway. So again, he puts that gun over his shoulder, walks again, not saying anything to anybody. And people are calling after him, trying to find him. And he's just not answering them. Goes to pick up the other gun. It's a handgun. And he picks it up and it's got goo all over it. So we know, okay, this is alien goo, right?
Yep.
So he gets, attacked through the floor. He gets dragged into the floor, and his head and his arms are above. He's dead, right? He's very obviously dead, right away.
Yes.
They all come back and they find him, and they're like trying to like save him, but he's very obviously dead. So they try to pull him out of the hole, and that's when aliens are coming out. They don't shoot it because at this point it's standing in front of the hull, and they're smart enough to go, "Hey, don't shoot the hull because we all might die in that case." So the thing kind of, moves the other direction. It knows it can't harm them, so they run to this down the hallway, and there's a door blocking them. So they're all trying to get this door open. And the alien moves closer again, but it goes back to the body because Elgin's body now twitches and moves a little bit. So it goes over to the body like, "Oh, what's going on with that?" And then, boom, this gun comes out of the hole in Elgin and blows a hole in the alien head. And it's Ripley. Ripley has escaped her cage. They do show a scene of her like using her blood to like burn some wires in her cage as to how she got out. Anyway, so yes, she joins up with them. They're like, kind of nervous about giving her a gun at first, but I don't think, no, they don't at this point. But at this point, they give a gun to the other soldier guy. Because they basically are like, we're all in this together. Like we're fighting aliens here. We're not fighting other people. These are aliens trying to kill all of us. They don't care who we are. So they basically move along. Obviously, the girlfriend of Elgin is like distraught at this point, but she is, a soldier and she's carrying on.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, the other thing that we need to know from the laboratory part of it is that the Brad Dourif, who is that one doctor guy, he gets like he doesn't get murdered. He gets like captured.
Yes.
You know, that's the only other thing we need to know at this point. So yeah, as we go back to them, they decide they have to go to this other side of the ship to get out and to go through the bottom of the ship and then come back up in there, whatever. They figure out a route to get through the ship, and they go there and they find out that this whole place is like flooded.
Yeah, very much flooded.
Right. So like the whole like mess hall is underwater. So they're all going to have to swim through the mess hall to get to this elevator on the other side. That's going to lead them up to where the ship is. So they all fly, swim through the water. And of course, as they're swimming through the water, the aliens come behind them. The aliens are much more graceful in the water than they are. Johnner does shoot a missile that somehow works underwater, and kills one of them, but there's still one of them behind them. And so they're all swimming even faster. The Elgin's girlfriend, I don't remember her name. But anyway, she dies because she gets grabbed by the alien and pulled back.
Yep.
And then Ripley kind of watches this with her weird, she's doing this weird kind of like, I don't know what you call it, like a predator sway almost.
That's fair.
Yeah, so it's like she's like doing like this weird movements. Anyway, like basically like she has some kind of elements of the alien in her. So like nobody trusts her at this point because she's just kind of weird. I mean, I guess that's kind of fair. Anyway, they try to come up on the other side, and there's some kind of like, I don't know, membrane over the top of the water. And as they basically eventually rip their way through the membrane, they see that there's eggs all around the ring of this thing. So they basically like an ambush. Like as soon as they come up, they're going to get face huggers everywhere. So as soon as they pop up, a lot of the eggs start opening. You see the face huggers start moving. So they all kind of swim down and then shoot a bunch of grenades up there, which kills them all, I guess. I mean, they don't come back, so I'm guessing that kills them all. But, as they come out, they're kind of fighting off the alien. Obviously, the paraplegic guy had to get out of his chair at this point, so he's on the back of Christy.
Yes.
And then Christy is basically like trying to hold on while the guy on his back, they're shooting the alien behind him. Eventually, Christy gets hurt. I'm trying to remember. I think he gets burned with acid on his face, right?
Yeah,
because it spits. That's what it was. I was like, how did the hell did he get his blood on him? But yeah, that's like the alien spits acid at him.
Yes.
Because
which is new.
Yeah, this is a new thing. It hasn't happened before. But yeah, it spits acid on his face. So he's like burning, and he's like, he can't see. He's like, obviously, he thinks he's dying, or I don't know what's going on, but he's like, obviously, like out of commission. So like the poor paraplegic guy is like holding onto this ladder, who is also holding on to Christy, who's strapped to him, and then the alien is grabbing onto Christy's legs, so he's holding up all of them. Anyway, so Christy kind of like, is calling for help. Johnner's like shooting down. He eventually shoots and kills the alien, but it's still hanging on Christy's leg. And so Christy like unbuckles himself,
sacrifices
himself and falls in the water. Now, at this point, I don't understand why he wouldn't have just lived. Right? Because he was, he got burned on the face, but like a lot of people get burned on the face and they're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, like, yeah, he fell in the water. He would be able to get the alien off of his foot in the water very easily. Whatever. We'll say that the acid burned through and killed him.
Sure. Let's go with that.
We'll go with that because it makes more sense. Anyway. So they get out and they're like climbing up the ladders on the other side. The head doctor guy is like in front, and he's like pretending like he can't open up the emergency glass thing to open the door. And he's like, "Oh, I can't open it up. Give me your gun so I can smash it." And so Call hands him the gun. And then he just goes, "You're stupid." And he shoots her.
Yeah.
And she just kind of, has like a dramatic fall. She falls in the water. He opens the door, goes in the door, and then locks it. And because he's like the head scientist guy, he can control the computer. So he starts like locking doors and, basically giving himself a path out, but then making it harder for them.
Yes.
So yeah, they're like trying to get out. There's like more alien stuff happening. And eventually Call comes and opens the door. Like she's all wet. Like she obviously was in the water, and she opens the door. Like, we saw you get shot. Like you were dead. And she's like, no, I'm fine. It wore off. I'm okay. So they all get in the hallway, and they're all kind of like, what, what's going on? Like, how did you survive that? There's no way you survived. So like Ripley uses her new like alien sense to basically figure out that she is a robot. She is an android. And she's like, what did they call it? He called her some kind of name. I don't remember what it was. I didn't catch it. It was like you're like an autom or something like that. Anyway, whatever it was, she's like a second generation synthetic, which is basically a synthetic designed by synthetics.
Yes.
And essentially they had like a major recall because they didn't like to listen to orders or something like that. So they recalled them all, but they heard rumors that there was some still out there. So apparently Call is one of them, and she's been hiding, pretending to be a normal person, but they were also, trying to do good in the world. So of course they heard about Ripley and the aliens, and she decided to infiltrate and try to do something about it. So anyway, so they convince her to, use her synthetic abilities, even though she's kind of like sworn them all off. Like she burnt out her modem, so she can't communicate, wirelessly with the ship or anything anymore. But he's like, well, you can still do it manually. So she goes into this like chapel and unplugs the Bible and then plugs it into her so she can control or at least access the ship. So she essentially hacks the ship. She figures out what's going on, that the ship is moving and it's going back towards Earth because there's an emergency, and the emergency protocol is just move the ship back to Earth if there's an emergency. So the ship is basically going towards Earth with the aliens on board, which means that Earth may get infected. But the interesting thing is that everybody's like, oh, Earth. Like, right. What a shithole. Like, everybody hates Earth. Like, nobody's, like, half of them haven't even been to Earth, but the other half are, like, have no desire to go back. Like, it's a shithole planet. Yeah. Anyway, so, yeah, they're all going to go there. They basically figure out, we can't let that happen. What can we do? She can't stop it from happening, but what she can do is hack the system to the point where she can change the ground level to basically crash land the ship so that it'll explode and kill everybody on board. Right. But now they have less time to get to their ship and get away, because instead of the whatever hour and a half that they had, now they only have 40 minutes.
Oh, she sped it up.
Right. But now she also has access to the ship, so she can open up all the doors and make their path easier and all that kind of stuff. And she also locks out the other dude, the head doctor guy, who's still, was controlling the computer, but now he can't.
Right.
So they make a route to get to the ship, and then they they start moving through. At this point, actually, I think this might have happened earlier, but whatever. I'm going to say it here. Ripley sees a door that says 1 through 7, and she has a tattoo that says 8. So she opens up the door, and she basically sees all these other failed clone versions of herself. Some of them look really, really bad. Some of them,
the genetic splicing was horrible in a lot of them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some of them are like really bad, but I mean, some of them are like interesting mixes of like, alien and person.
Yeah.
And basically at the very back, she finds the number 7 is still like alive. It's got like one crazy looking like fused alien arm. And like, I mean, basically you can tell she's like in bad suffering, right?
Oh, agony. Yes.
Yeah. So she goes back there and she's like just saying, kill me, kill me. Like I said, this happens in almost every alien movie where there's a kill me scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, she, of course, Ripley like gets upset. And she like burns the whole place down with the flamethrower. So yeah, she kills the 7. I mean, a kind of gruesome death, right? She could have just shot her and made it quick, but instead she lit her on fire. I mean, that's a bad way to go.
Yeah, it's thorough though.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's thorough, but that's a long, painful way to go.
Right.
But I mean, it's better than not going at all, I suppose. So
she's Ripley 8.
Right. Yeah. So she's Ripley 8. She destroys all the other horrible clones of herself. And then they move along. And I know this happened earlier. I think it happened before the water thing. But we'll pretend like it happened now. Yeah. So then they go to another room where they go in because they hear people, I think, in there, and they find all the dead bodies from all the colonists. And this is where they realize that, oh, these are the people that we smuggled to them. Like, this is what they used them for, was breeding for these aliens.
Right.
And they find this one guy who's still alive, who was impregnated. Like Ripley can smell on him that he's been impregnated, but it hasn't hatched yet. So yeah, basically, he freaks out, understandably. And then they explain to him that, yeah, you got one in you, but we don't know how long it'll be. But if you come with us, we could try to put you in, cryo sleep and then, give you a doctor when you wake up. Hope maybe we could try to get it out.
Right.
So they go, okay. They're moving. That might have happened earlier too, but I don't know. I'm just remembering these doors now, so that's what I'm saying. So at this point, after that, I think, because I'm trying to think of how many of them died and where they died. Like where? Okay, no, yeah, they at this point they make it back to the ship then, right? Because I'm trying to think of everybody who's died. Like Christie's dead.
Yes. Well, I believe this is when Ripley gets captured by the xenomorph.
Well, yeah, that's right before they get on the ship. So I'm trying to remember if anybody else is still around.
I believe.
Yeah, because it's okay at this point. It's the soldier guy. It's Call.
Ren,
it's
Purvis, Call.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the soldier guy, DeStefano. It's the mechanic guy, Rees, the paraplegic guy. It's Call. It's Purvis, that's the guy who's still got the alien in him. And Ripley, I believe, are everybody that's left. The doctor guy is still technically alive, but he's not with them because he had run off to do his own thing.
Yes.
So that's where we're at. I believe that's everybody. Everybody else has died, right? No, Johnner is still with him too. Sorry. Yeah, because Johnner makes it all the way to the end, I believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they get almost to the ship, and then as they get really close, I guess they're like right above the nest, and Ridley becomes like overcome with, I don't know,
a calling.
Yeah, a calling to like commune with the floor. I don't know. She starts like writhing around on the floor, like anyway, like whatever, trying to commune with the other aliens, whatever it is. So the aliens come up and like grab her, and there's like this weird like kind of like slow motion thing of like a xenomorph like holding her and like bringing her to the nest. It's bizarre.
Yes.
And then there's a scene of her like laying in a big bed of like the Geiger bioengineered stuff, and then she gets sucked into it.
Yep.
So everybody else gets to the ship, and they're like trying to prep it for launch. And she gets brought to the nest, and you can see like, Brad Dourif, the doctor guy, and a couple of the other doctors are like all cocooned up and like watching this whole thing happen. And they basically explain that, Ripley got the racial memory, to be able to remember things. And she got like the acid blood and the enhanced strength and stuff like that. But the alien queen got from her, like at first she had a normal xenomorph, where she was laying eggs and all that kind of stuff, but eventually she developed a human reproductive system,
live birth.
Yeah, which is what they're saying. It's like, okay, so she has this big weird like pregnant belly.
Yes.
And then she gives birth to this abomination thing. It is hideous, but it's like a merging of human and xenomorph.
It's white, but human eyes.
Right. Yeah, but they're like deep set in like xenomorph sockets. It's bizarre looking. It's freaky looking. Anyway. So yeah, it's born. It looks at the queen. I guess it sees it as like an enemy. Like it does not see it as his mother, because it like knocks its head off, like kills the queen immediately, and then like goes to Ripley and starts like, making baby noises, like it thinks that's his mom,
right?
Or its mom. I guess it doesn't have a gender. It's like its mom. I saw like production pictures of this thing, and it actually had this weird, bizarre, like hermaphrodite like genitals thing hanging out of its stomach.
Really?
Yeah, so it was like weird, like, like a mix of like of male and female genitalia. Obviously they edited it out in post production. I'm surprised they made it that far, because it's bizarre looking. But yeah, they did it really weird looking. Anyway, So yeah, it sees Ripley as its mom. Ripley is like, get the hell away from me. But yeah, the thing gets upset. I think it's implied that the doctor guy is the dad. I don't know. Anyway, it's bizarre. But yeah, the alien
kills him anyway.
Kills him. So everybody else is like dead. Ripley manages to escape. And she runs back to the ship. They see her on the camera running back to the ship. They manage to open up the ramp at the last minute, so she's able to jump onto the ship. And then the newborn is also like, they show it moving out of the nest, right?
Yeah.
So they're about to like, try to take off. Ripley is like the only one that really knows how to actually fly the ship, because obviously the captain and the co-pilot are both dead, so they don't know. Nobody knows how to really fly it. Like the Breeze kind of knows, but not really. But Ripley is a pilot, so she knows exactly what's going on. So she basically helps them get everything on point. They have to close the back door to actually take off. They go to close the back door and it won't close all the way. So they basically send a call back there to because she knows how to fix the door, because she's the maintenance assistant. Right. So she goes back there to close the door. She's trying to crowbar the door closed. And then she sees that the newborn is what they call it. The alien human hybrid is back there. And it grabs the door and closes it for her. And it looks like it's kind of trying to be friendly.
Yeah.
And then as she reacts then it gets angry and attacks her. So she rolls and hides I don't know, under a box or something. I don't know, somewhere where the alien can't get to her, but she also can't get out.
Correct.
So yeah, then the soldier guy comes back there to see what's going on. He gets killed. And then the doctor guy. Wait, no, hold on. Yeah, the doctor guy comes out at this time, or maybe the doctor guy kills that soldier
guy. I'm looking at. No, yeah.
Whatever. He's kind of sort of anyway. The doctor guy comes. He's threatening to kill everybody. He wants to take over. He wants to be in charge. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Purvis at this time is now. He had been shot. But now the alien's trying to hatch out of him. So he decides that he's going to go out, in a blaze of glory. And so as the alien's hatching out of him, he's runs towards the doctor, gets shot a bunch of times, but manages to grab onto the doctor. Yes. And then the alien bursts through his head.
Yep.
And kills him. And so then they kill the alien and Purvis. So then the Purvis, the doctor, and that chest burster are all dead. And then DeStefano, the doctor, he either gets shot by that guy or gets killed by the newborn. I'm not entirely sure.
The newborn kills him.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say he dies in this time. I don't know which one kills him, but yeah, the newborn kills him. And then they go back, and it's Ripley is kind of trying to sort of bond with this thing, right? So she starts showing it some love. It's all cooing like a baby, whatever. She cuts her hand open on its teeth and then throws her blood on the back window because it's acidic, right?
Yeah.
So it burns a hole in the window, and then all the atmosphere starts getting sucked out, and then she essentially pushes the newborn into that hole. Right.
Yeah.
So that. Yeah. It's its whole body starts getting sucked out through this hole. And I got to say, that sound is horrible. When it starts dying and it starts screaming, it is a horrific sound. It's terrible. I feel bad for the thing.
Yeah. I mean, Ripley feels bad for it too.
Yeah. To be fair. I mean, I get why she does, but I mean, just that sound, it sounds so bad. Anyway.
Yeah.
So it gets sucked out into space as they're basically landing on Earth. And depending on what version of the movie you watch, either they're looking out the window and they're going, "Oh, what do we do now?" Or they land and get out, and it's an apocalyptic wasteland. But then they look around.
The city.
Yeah, and then it's Paris. Yeah, so depending on what version you watch, and there's not much of a difference between the director's cut and the standard cut. But yeah, that's basically the main difference, is the different ending. And then there's a different opening sequence, but it really, again, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it.
That would have led into Alien 5, which has not happened.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of sequels, but again, a lot of them got taken because Aliens vs. Predator came out not too long after this,
Right?
Which kind of stole a lot of the thunder. And then there's been a couple of sequels that are supposed to be happening, but they've all gotten shut down.
Correct.
Probably most famously is the new Neil Blomkamp one, but she was supposed to do an Alien 5, but his Alien 5 was basically going to be a sequel to Aliens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool art out there. Like they just re-released them again. They've released them before, but they just re-released them again. Everybody's like pretending like they're just new, like couple weeks ago. But it's like, I saw these things years ago. But yeah, there's a bunch of really cool concept art for what was going to happen in that. Again, I don't know if it would be good or not. I mean, Neil Blomkamp has made some good movies. He's made some bad movies. So I don't know if it would have been good or not, but at least it would have been interesting. But yeah, so there's been no like direct sequel to the end of this franchise.
Correct. So what were your first thoughts when you saw this? Did you see this in theaters?
I did.
Did?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it was 97.
97.
Yeah. So I was in high school at the time. I mean, I saw theater. It was good. I remember I really liked it when it first came out. And I still like it. I mean, to a degree. I mean, it's written by Joss Whedon, and you can definitely tell a lot of that Joss Whedon, because he's really good at like ensembles, like,
right.
Like, well, I don't want to say crews, but you know what I mean? Like groups of people. That's where his strength is. And I know that he got a lot of things cut out and a lot of things changed in his script. So I mean, it's not fair to really say this is written only by him, because all the versions of his script had a whole another act that happened on Earth.
Yes.
But all that stuff got cut out and a lot of stuff got changed. I know that, I mean, he was in a lot of interviews saying that, yeah, they changed a lot of stuff. It does say that I wrote it, but a lot of the stuff I wrote is still there. A lot of it's different. Like the studio made a lot of changes. But you can still feel a lot of that energy there. And it was really cool. Like the mercenary crew is a very cool crew. I mean, it's a very, again, it's a Joss Whedon, adventure crew story. He does a good job with those ensemble casts and giving everybody their little moment to shine. Yeah,
he usually, for a while, there's a debate that we shouldn't go to, but he liked strong female leads.
Yeah.
And Ripley was example of probably the strongest, right?
Yeah, more or less. But yeah, anyway, I really, really liked it the first time I watched it in theater. Again, it would be high enough for me to rewatch it, but again, like I feel weird watching 1, 2, and then skipping 3 and then going to 4. So I usually don't watch this one either. Just because, again, it was always so hard for me to watch 3. Because again, a movie has to rank at least 7 or higher for me to want to rewatch it. And yeah, Alien 3, it's not terrible, but again, it's not good enough for me to want to rewatch it. And I just don't want to waste the energy on rewatching it. So yeah, I don't want to watch 1, 2, 4. So I usually don't watch it. Although I do like this one better than 3, or at least the director's cut of 3.
Yeah.
But I usually just don't get around there.
For me, and like I said, I was, don't get me wrong, I was young and naive when this. I probably didn't watch this until probably like 98, 99. At that point in time, when I was scrambling for everything horror, I was a bit of a horror purist, more so than I go, this is even horror. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to watch it. And realistically, it probably didn't take until Alien vs. Predator come out for me to go, okay, I need to watch this series again. So I didn't watch it probably when Alien vs. Predator come out, 2003,
somewhere around there,
or 2005,
something like that.
I did 2005. I probably didn't watch this until 2005. For the first time,
right?
So I wasn't a fan of it as a whole. I love sci-fi, but at that time it was pure horror, and I didn't think this was horror enough. This was very reminiscent of 2 to me. at that point. More actually more of Space Marines, mercenaries, whatever you want to call it, right? At that time, 1 and 3 were more horror, while 2 and 4 were more action oriented with guns. That was my first thought originally. On rewatches, still not a high movie for me in this franchise to go back and watch. Like anyway, as you're talking about, your scale and what it takes to rewatch. I mean, it's something I do watch. When I do rewatch it, it's also very painful. It is a product of the 90s, I feel, as well. Just mean it felt like, even though it's always in space, it felt like the in space movie, if you will, of the franchise at that time.
They all are.
But you know what I mean? Like that, it felt. I felt like there was campiness that had never been there in the franchise.
Okay.
So that's just rewatch though. I mean, I don't know if there's a better. I don't think there's a better version out there than this.
No, I mean, again, there's that director's cut, but it really there's not a whole lot of difference. It's basically they have a different opening sequence, but like the effects aren't totally done. I mean, they're enough done, but they're a little rough,
Right.
Like there's like a CGI bug, and the bug looks really fake. I mean,
yeah,
but whatever. I'm not. And then
I'm definitely with you that I will do 1 and 2 and then skip 3 and 4. Generally speaking.
I mean, again, if I'm watching the assembly cut, I might watch all 4.
Yeah, that's fair. So what are the highlights for you in this movie, though?
Highlights is I really like the mercenary crew. I really thought they were a cool like ensemble kind of cast there. I thought they all played off each other pretty well. I thought they all, again, that part really felt like, this is back when Joss Whedon was actually, doing good stuff. This is kind of like the pre-Firefly, like mercenary crew, right? And it kind of felt like this was like his kind of working draft to get there. Like he was working on a lot of, mercenary crews like that to kind of make his final thing. And I don't know. I really liked that cast of characters. I really thought they all had their own little, shining moments, and they all were just cool. Anyway, I just liked that crew. I thought they were
Okay.
awesome.
Highlights for me is I don't know what you want to call it, the genetic splicing, and it's a kind of a lore with the newborn that we don't really see again. And it's just the interesting part really was the genetic splicing of it all, right? And what they're trying to do with it, setting it so far in the future that no one else that was alive, if anyone was left alive, could be in this movie. So just lore wise, showing that the species can evolve in a way too was pretty cool. What about low points for you? I'm sure there's a few.
Low points. I'll concentrate on this. There's one scene in this movie that really makes me cringe. It's the scene where Ron Perlman comes jogging up next to Ripley, and he's like, "So I heard you met these things before." But it's this. The scene is so it just feels so out of place. And it feels like so just kind of like they were both off that day or something. It's just a very cringy scene, and it's done. I mean, it's just a bad scene. And it just seemed like, oh, so I heard you met these things before. She's like, yeah. He's like, so what did you do? She's like, I died. And it's just, I don't know. It's just a very, very cringy scene. And I regret watching that scene whenever it's on there. I would say that specifically is the low point. I mean, everything else is all right, but that scene sucks. And it's funny because I love Ron Perlman. I love Sigourney Weaver, but this scene is bad.
Yeah, that's fair. I know there's a lot of behind the scenes for Sigourney Weaver to come back as Ripley. There's a whole bunch of stipulations that the character was interesting enough for her to come back to play her again. However, I feel that making her so OP took away who Ripley was. Like, she didn't need to have the genetic splicing in there. She was a badass as a human. And I felt that I understand she wasn't a human, that she was a clone, genetic splicing, but I felt like it took away from the character, giving her all these extra abilities.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, again, I mean, she was basically acting like she had those abilities before anyway. Now she just actually did.
Right, but I'm just saying that she was a badass enough without the all this other stuff being added to her.
That's fair.
So I ask, is it horror?
I mean, there's definitely horror elements there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like trying to fight something that you can't beat, that's kind of slowly picking you off one by one. I mean, as they were making their way to the ship, they were basically getting picked off one by one. These are like, hardcore mercenaries that are still losing, and just about every battle they have, they're losing somebody.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of action element as well, but yeah, there is definitely horror element.
Yeah, we actually got body horror in this one, especially with the clones.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'd argue that the newborn is body horror.
Yeah.
Whoever designed, they really made the newborn off-putting. Like, deeply off-putting to watch.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, like when it makes like noises and stuff, but like especially like when it's dying. Dear God.
Yes.
That noise is horrible.
Yeah, I mean that was well it really was. So it's body horror that we never really had. And I enjoyed that part. It really did.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so how many chest bursters out of 10 would you give this movie?
I will give this movie 8. 8 chest bursters out of 10, yes.
All right.
I like it. I know a lot of people complain that they don't like it, but I actually like it.
I mean, do I like it more or less or the same as Alien 3? I mean, just maybe because it's not the ensemble cut, I will go to a 7 for this. It is slightly better than 3.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
All right, so next 2 movies we're going to do. We're running long in the tooth here.
I warned you.
I know. So we're going to do, because we discussed these already. We're going to be talking about the Alien versus Predator movies. Alien side, kind of just a quick recap of each one, and just discuss the Alien side. So, Alien versus Predator takes place present day Earth. We get introduced to an ice climber who knows ice, and we see Lance Hendrick come back, that he's putting together a crew to go to Antarctica because they found some like old Mesopotamian or mini culture things being spotted pyramid wise and all these different cultures that would have no relation to each other. So he plays Mr. Wayland again, trying to throw in like a precursor off to who we saw him last as Alien 3. And essentially they're going to get a drilling team to drill down there to see what's down there. Laser beam comes down, melts the hole in there, and goes at perfectly 30-degree angle. The team gets down there, and they essentially see that there's a whole bunch of mix of cultures that are worshiping the predators as gods as a whole. And they see sacrificial pit where humans are being sacrificed with their chest burst open, but they're not bound, showing this was a willing thing to do, that they're willing to inhabit the aliens to help these predators. We have 3 predators that come down there, and they don't really have weapons, and it's kind of we find out that it's like a training ground for them to get their merits, be able to earn their shoulder guns on them. And people die off from the predators, people die off from aliens, long bouts, right? And kind of the lore part of it that we get into is this: aliens and predators have been around forever. There's the an alien queen under Antarctica this entire time that's been there for thousands of years, predating any humans contact with aliens beforehand, which is hundreds of years into the future. So essentially, people die off one by one, and essentially it's one predator and the ice climber lady who survive, and they have to fight the queen. They kind of join teams. Nonverbal communication, showing her that the blood doesn't penetrate the skull, so she gets a skull shield and a spear made out of the alien tail, and they have to take down this alien queen because they both realize that if this escapes, it's very, very bad. They end up defeating it. And you find out early in the movie that the predator has a face hugger on it. He kind of just leaves her there in Antarctica. Ship comes in, takes him up, and an alien bursts out of his chest. End the movie.
Yep.
Like I said, we discussed this before in more detail in our Predator episode. But we want to discuss the alien side of these movies and whether it contributed or ruined the lore of the Alien franchise. So let's discuss the aliens in this movie, shall we?
And again, the major complaint that I have about the aliens in this movie is the time frames.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, we established with the time frames with all the other ones. Alien, I would say, is probably the gold standard, right? Because that's the first one. So we were talking possibly 6 to 8 hours of the thing being on his face, and then like a couple of hours before it hatches, right?
Yeah.
And then in the second one, we don't really see that time frame happen, but I mean, the colonists are cocooned up. It seems to follow the same pattern, right?
Right.
3, it's a longer time frame, but the one that hatches out of the dog or ox, depending on how you go, it seems to follow that time frame pretty well.
Yeah.
It's just the queen one does not. But again, this is the first queen we've seen. Takes a lot longer. Who knows?
Gestation period's longer.
Right. Yeah. So then the aliens resurrection, again, they get around that by saying, oh, we're going to be here for a couple of days. They don't specifically say how long it's been. So again, it could have followed that. But again, this one, we see people get face huggers on them, impregnated, and then the aliens burst out of their chest. I would say all within 10 minutes?
10 minutes, yeah.
I mean, maximum. I mean, the whole process takes 10 minutes.
Right.
And
they barely wake up from it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they like it immediately, like everything happens like super, super fast.
Yes.
I mean, other than that, I mean, the aliens do act how aliens do act. I mean, there's no weird, they don't have any weird different powers or anything. There's no weird, things that are physiologically the same as the other alien movies. Except for, again, this timeline thing. Right. I mean, I don't know if you could, I don't know if you want to make an argument that these aliens were somehow made differently because they're training or versions or something. I don't know. But
maybe it's a different subspecies.
Right. But again, for the most part, I would say, I understand why they did it. They're just trying to accelerate the time frame, right? Because they don't want to have people sitting there for 12 hours, like waiting for things to happen. But I mean, they could have very easily done that. These people, they're archaeologists. They're looking over a new pyramid. I mean, it could have taken days. I mean, it could have easily.
It should take days.
Yeah, it could have easily been in the standard time frame. You know what I mean? So again, they just rushed it by changing that time frame. Other than that, I mean, the way that they fight, the way that they act is pretty normal. It's just that time frame is the only real problem we have.
Well, I mean, if this pyramid existed, and I mean, do you feel that the idea that aliens have been on Earth and worshipped and known about and depicted in things that from 2005 till 2000 whatever, someone else would have seen that pyramid and realized that these things existed?
Well, I mean, you gotta realize it was right next to a abandoned Antarctic research base.
Whaling stick. Yeah.
So, like, I mean, who else is gonna look there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That
Like,
nullifies the idea of the first contact that we have in Alien.
well, I mean, it basically just goes down to like what that ice climber lady is gonna do,
Right.
right? I mean, if she goes and tells everybody what's there, then sure, but obviously she did not. You know, I mean, again, if we're trying to keep this in the same timeline,
Yes.
then obviously she did not, because again, nobody has any idea about it in the future of this timeline.
Right. Which is interesting because in The Predator, they do acknowledge this movie.
Yeah. Well, that movie's terrible anyway. So
I know.
Yeah. I mean, and again, that's fine. I mean, again, knowing that they exist, but not having any example of them to work with is different.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you could see a depiction of things, but not have access to them. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you could look at Roman reliefs and see that Atlas bears used to exist, but that doesn't change the fact that there's no Atlas bears around anymore.
Yeah. I mean, do you see this as, especially being Wayland, the precursor to them, maybe the company realizing that they exist and that's why they have those protocols in place and why they want to bring it back, because they had no living alien? It just took them to find him in space.
I mean that's possible. I mean, we never really get a glimpse into the Weyland-Yutani like leadership. Right. You know, like we never see what the corporate level people are thinking or saying when they're like sending out dispatches like that. You know, we're only seeing the end result of people showing up to deal with the problem. Like, obviously those are just, you know, because what do they say? Like, no one important does field work. Right. You know what I mean? So like, we're only seeing the people doing the field work. We're not seeing the people behind the scenes. We don't know what their motives are. So, I mean, yeah, they very well may have, you know, knowledge that these things need to be found and harnessed and researched or whatever. And that's why they're doing it. But we've never gotten that glimpse because we've never seen through that lens, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, it's possible. Yeah.
Do you feel that having Lance back is Wayland? We discussed the generational genetics of someone looking exactly the same.
Well,
as someone hundreds of years later.
In my personal belief is that the one in Alien 3 is a droid.
Okay.
Because it is bizarrely insistent that it is not. Which to me is like, no, he probably is, you know? Like, why would it matter if he was or not? I mean, it doesn't make a difference. So, like, you know what I mean? So, like, Ripley at that point in time, it would not have mattered either way. It's not going to change her mind. Why would she give a shit?
Right.
So I don't understand. He's like bizarrely insistent that he's not a droid when he is. So that's why I kind of believe that he was an android made to not look like an android to the point where he has like, you know, red blood. But if you look at, I mean, I don't know if it's only in the assembly cut or not, but like he gets hit in the head and like the whole side of his head is like peeling off. Like his ear is like hanging off of his head. And
that's almost gone, yeah.
And he doesn't seem to be reacting all that much to it. So like if you get hit in the head hard enough to where like your skin is split open and your freaking ear is falling off your head, you would probably not be conscious.
No.
You know what I mean? That's what I was saying. Like, to me, the weirdness that he's insistent that he's not a droid, because, you know, like he's literally screaming at her, "I'm not a droid." It's weird. And it doesn't make any sense unless he is.
Correct.
And if he is, then this makes total sense. because I mean, a founder, or at least somebody further along the line, trying to honor the founder of their company by making a synthetic person that looks just like the founder of their company makes total sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but I can't see somebody genetically being him. Like, maybe he's a clone. I mean, I don't know.
Right. It's possible.
But I don't know. In my mind, he is an android because nobody insists that much that they're not something unless they are.
Yeah, it's fair. So, strangely enough, I know this movie is a lot of hate. I don't remember why I gave this the Predator episode. I have to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's okay. I mean, I know we rated it from the Predator side last time, and it's a lot more faithful to the Predator side than it is to the Alien side. Yes. But again, it's mainly just the time frame stuff. They're pretty. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty. They honor everything else except for the time frame, and I understand why they did it. I still don't like it, but I understand it.
Yeah. So I like it more than I like it a lot, but more than Alien Resurrection. So I'm going 7.5. What would you say
for this one? Purely from the Alien side, yes. I would have to give it a 5.5.
5.5.
Yes. So this is. I know I gave a higher score to the Predator side of this, but I feel like the Predators are a lot more, you know what I mean, like taken care of in it than the Aliens are. So I feel like that whole time frame dissonance is enough for me to knock it down to that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I was just watching it for the Alien side of things, I would not want to rewatch this movie.
It's fair. That's very fair. All right, let's quickly go through Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
Yes.
So just the gist.
Yeah, Alien vs. Predator Requiem is the Pred alien bursts out of the Predator. It kills all the Predators. They crash land. It basically kills a whole bunch of people. It kind of like takes over a small town because it can like somehow lay eggs and things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like laying eggs like through its mouth, like it's like multiple injecting people with eggs, and there's like big aliens everywhere. There's like a big fight in the town, and there's like a showdown between, because they have like that Predator that comes down to like hunt him by himself.
The cleaner. Yeah.
The cleaner comes down to like wipe him out, and he does a terrible job. But he gets, they basically fight each other to the point where there's like a nuclear explosion, and then everybody dies except for the people that don't.
Right.
Yeah, that's about all you need to know.
That's pretty much it. I
mean, there's a whole lot of other bullshit in there, but as far as Aliens versus Predator part, that's about it.
Yeah. So we'll obviously we have to talk about the elephant in the room is that Pred alien egg laying technique.
Right.
How do you feel about that with the whole continuity and lore of
Alien? I mean, it completely ruins it. I mean, every part of that is wrong, right?
Right.
I mean, one, like, yeah, Pred alien, okay, like, that's fine. I mean, we've already established that aliens that are birthed out of different animals take different aspects of that animal, right? So
the looks great.
Yeah. So yeah, being born out of a predator, it'll look a little different. It might be a little bit more hunter centric, I get that because the predators are all about hunting, but it wouldn't stray too far from its programming because obviously, like, the ones built out of humans are not like, they don't act human or anything. So it's not like you get their behavior from that. You just get their looks and a little bit of their, whatever.
Bipedaleness.
Yeah. A little bit of their, je ne sais quoi, whatever you call it.
Right. Yeah.
So the whole thing is that they've always had, the drones are there to like gather hosts, right? And food, I'm guessing, because sometimes they kill, sometimes they capture. So I'm guessing it's, for hosts for babies and also for food, right? Yeah. And then, they have the eggs, they have the queen that lays the eggs and the face huggers, go on to people, they make more drones, blah, blah, blah. That's the process. This like completely eliminates that. Like somehow this pred alien has somehow like broken their genetic code to the point where now it can breed by itself. It's like, it's like a planarian, it can literally breed itself. It's like, I don't understand what they were thinking. Like, why would you do that? There's so many other ways you could have had a lot of aliens there other than this bizarre multi-egg laying thing.
Yes.
It's very stupid. I mean, even if it was one egg, it's wrong. But this multi-egg thing is just stupid.
Right. And why through the mouth? Why? Like, there's no part of it that's alien.
Right.
That it does.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah. But again, we have a serious timeline problem. So even if you look past all of that, like they're, they lay like 10 eggs and then they hatch in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stupid how off it is.
Well, yeah, the dad and his son get a face hugger on them, get knocked out. A minute later, face hugger's off, and a minute later, they burst.
Right.
Like, there's like 2 minutes.
Right.
Like the face hugger is supposed to stay on for quite some time.
Right. Again, yeah, we established like 6 to 8 hours approximately.
Yeah.
I mean, might be even longer than that. We're just saying at the very least, it's going to be 6 to 8 hours.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that was. I don't know if the person never watched an alien movie before making this.
Yeah, again, it's like the same. I understand why they did it because they're trying to move things along, but like then use a different alien species, make up your own. Right. Don't take an existing franchise and then make it stupid.
Right. It could have been a Predator franchise. And then something else.
Right. Yeah, it could have been anything else, but I know they, whatever. Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah. So, I mean, if this was canon, it clearly destroys the lore, the species, everything we've ever known about it.
Right. And the thing that really pisses me off, it even destroys the lore of the one that came right before it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I get, like, okay, you want to, destroy the other franchises before it became this particular franchise, whatever, that's fine. But you're ruining the lore that was established in the movie you already made. So, like, Alien vs. Predator, you've already destroyed the lore you made in that movie.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. Like I said, from the Predator side of this, it's not bad. I mean, it stays pretty close to the, what a Predator would do. Why they would send only one, I think, was my main complaint. Last time
he was a cleaner.
Yeah, I mean, he's a cleaner. He's the super guy. Whatever. I still wouldn't have trusted this to one guy, but whatever. If he's that good, I guess. But obviously he wasn't because he died.
Right.
So, again, from the alien side, this is a horror show. I mean, this is terrible. It did ruin the lore. Period. It ruined the lore of the movie that came before this, and it ruined the lore of both franchises coming into it.
Yeah.
Alien more so than Predator, but still did both.
Yes, this is definitely a movie I skip while watching either franchise.
As you should.
Yeah, I mean, they even try to set up, they had the woman at the end that was Utani, so they're trying to set up us next thing. All right, we got introduced to Wayland. Now we got the Utani side.
Right.
And luckily, it died there.
Yeah, thanks.
We didn't get a third one from it.
So what do you give it out of 10 there, Graveyard?
For the Alien franchise, it's going to a 1. Oh, are you there, Salem?
Yeah, I mean, speaking purely from the alien side of things, I mean, they did act like aliens sometimes. The other ones that aren't pred aliens acted like aliens. So, 3. I'll give it a 3 chest bursters out of 10. This is speaking purely from the alien side.
That's fair. All right. As we get into the 2 newest of this franchise, one being like 10 years old at this point.
Right.
Something like that. Prometheus. And how this begins, I believe, with them essentially looking at caves, right, and realizing that there is some. Sorry, it starts off with a spacecraft leaving parts of planet, and it drinks humanoid liquid. And it's essentially, we find out it's the engineer, right?
Mhm.
The engineer turns out to be, the creature, the alien, the giant alien that we see from the first Alien, right? So he drinks a liquid, dissolves into the water, and falls, and it just goes apart.
Well, they show what looks like his DNA being destroyed, and then it recombines into a new DNA.
Yeah. So, like I said, we'll get into that a little bit with this here shortly. But that cuts back, and we introduce to Shaw and Holloway, who are looking at a star map. I don't remember where exactly. Did they say where they were?
Isle of Skye in Scotland.
Okay. And they realize that they've seen this star pattern, which is not a known constellation in their sky, in other ancient cultures. So, like, how would anyone know what this is? Right?
Right.
So,
It's not something visible in the night sky. They would have had to have at that time knowledge of what's beyond the stars in the sky to know this particular formation of stars and planets.
Like it's in the outer rim.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So they're taking it as, hey, we're finding this stuff. This is an invitation, and we want to find out who these people are. Right? They said they're essentially they think their theory is they came to Earth and they created humans. That they went to planet and kind of, just like, that's what they're called, engineers, engineered life into existence, and then stuck around for a while to help guide, their creation for a little bit, then they disappear.
All right. Yeah. They're like, and what evidence do you have for this? They're like, none. It's just what I choose to believe. It's like, okay.
So this map of like 5 stars.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you're a scientist. Like, why are you bringing faith arguments to a science discussion? And it's literally the answer to the first question.
Right.
Like, okay, you did something wrong.
Right. So they get, and here we get Peter Wayland, who's in charge of the Wayland Corporation, who's going to fund the expedition, and it's a scientific expedition to help find this path. They're going to follow their theory, and it's going to be some map to some distant moon somewhere. I don't know if they exactly say where.
No, they don't say where. They just basically say it was a map to bring us to here. I mean, that's all they say, is that we're here now.
Right. So, they go, into stasis. We meet the android David, who doesn't act like a human. This is the first time, I would say, there's not that question whether he's human or not. Probably because we don't have the android hating Ripley around for this movie.
Right.
I believe it takes them about 4 years to get there, so they're in stasis for about 4 years. So, which is interesting. I mean, that only took 2 years to get this whatever destination they're at. That they get woken up, and their mission director, who's Vickers, tells them, like, hey, this is the mission, but you're not to make contact. You have to run everything through by me. Acting in the stead of Peter Wayland, the face of the company.
Yeah, Vickers being played by Clarice Theron.
Yes, and Shaw by Naomi Rapace.
Numi Rapace, yeah.
Rapace, yeah.
And then Wayland is played by Guy Pearce in weird old guy makeup.
Very weird old guy makeup. And doesn't look like anything like Lance Hendrickson. Amazing, right?
Right. Well, again, at this point, it is far enough in the future to where he's probably a descendant. Because if the original Wayland, the billionaire Wayland who started the company, was back in 2005,
This is like 80 something years later.
Died. Right. So this was, this obviously, how many could have been 3-4 generations, I mean, how long do, companies stay in the name of their founder? I mean, it happens all the time. As long as you have enough money and all the shares keep going down to your family members, you can still be in charge.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that at first too. I was like, does that break the lore that they're two people? Like, is that supposed to be the same guy? But then I figured, no, yeah, it's probably just a descendant. Because like the Wayland and the Universe Predator was old enough to have a lot of children by that point. So
yeah, but I mean, this guy was old too. So he was 84 years previously. He could have been alive.
Well, he could have been Wayland's son directly. Who knows?
Yeah, son or grandson. That's about as close as we can get.
Yeah.
Right.
Michael Fassbender is David. I'm just trying to remember like all the notable actors. Idris Elba is the captain.
Yes.
Benedict Wong is one of the pilot guys.
Yes. We get Wong and Heimdall.
Yeah.
Oh, and I guess the Mandarin, right?
Right.
Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, it lands on the surface, and it's trying to find. It's found like a structure there that they're exploring inside.
Well, yeah, they found like straight lines, on the ground, and they're like, God doesn't work in straight lines.
Right. Yeah, that's always that thing that people look for is straight lines and right angles.
Yeah,
because that's not found in nature.
And also perfect circles.
Right. Yeah.
All of which were at this site.
Yeah. So, they're exploring around, and we see essentially a big statue of a human-like head, but not quite human, just a little bit. They find a corpse of the engineer, or the seemed to be engineer, decapitated. And here's what they find: cylinders, like perfect cylinders, lined up like the alien eggs are, but they're cylinders. Right. So, for some reason, Shaw takes the alien head, I believe.
Yep.
And they find other bodies laying that. There's a fight here, and these are all engineers. They're all dead, so they think they're the people that they're looking for that help create human race are all extinct at this point in time. So a couple of people are so memorable. They're not.
It's like the biologist and the geologist.
Yeah.
Get stuck at the site, and there's a big like dust storm. So then everybody else goes back to the ship, and then those two stay there because they got trapped in the storm, and so they decide to like keep doing their jobs in there. Like the geologist guy's got these like little mapping globes that are like mapping out the interior of the place.
Yeah, they see it, and that's being passed up to like scan out the interior.
Right.
Of it. Oh.
Yeah. So then, everybody else goes back to the ship, and then they stay there. And then they see like the cylinders are now leaking like this black fluid, and the black fluid is like all over the floor. And then there's like these little worm things. Well, they show a little bit of a scene earlier where they show like these mealworm things like floating around in it. And then what was it? A couple hours later, then there's like these giant like lamprey worms.
So it's evolving after essentially being activated. It seems like
right.
And it's kind of evolving to stuff that we're starting to recognize. I know David takes a cylinder, they brought the head back because they wanted to test DNA, and they said it matches that very close to humans.
Like an exact match.
Yeah. And then David starts investigating the cylinder and the liquid inside. He dumps a part of it into a drink and gives it to Holloway.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that he wanted to find the answers, no matter what.
Right.
So he takes a drink, not knowing what this liquid is. We don't know much about it either.
Right.
And then shortly after,
immediately bones Shaw. Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they bone. Then inside the structure, meanwhile, I'd say it's more snake-like at this point in time, right?
Yeah, whatever. It's a long, fleshy thing.
Yes, it kills one guy and then sprays essentially acid into the other guy's helmet.
Right.
Yeah, and so he falls face first into this dark liquid, which we don't know much about. But once the storm's done, they're able to return. They find the one guy's corpse that was killed by the snake-like creature, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have more time to explore, and they do find essentially an engineer in stasis.
Well, no, that at this point is when the dude gets really, really sick.
Oh, Holloway? Yeah.
So they have to go back to the ship. And Vickers, rightly so, does not let him on the ship. And that guy, he's even smart enough to know that she's right. But he's like, you're right. I am infected with something. I'm going to kill everybody if you let me on the ship. And he lets her kill him with a flamethrower.
Oh yeah, he kneels down and
right, yeah. So then at that point they all go back and they're all in mourning, and at that point that's when David goes back because they're having glitches to where the little scanner things keep saying that they're finding life signs, but then they're glitching out and they don't know why, and they don't explicitly say it, but I'm pretty sure it's that David is suppressing the pings because he wants to go investigate it himself.
Right. He seems to be acting very odd at this point.
Right. Yeah. So he goes to check it out. He goes down there. Because Vickers was watching what he was doing. And essentially when he gets to that stasis room, he closes the camera or shuts it off. She gets all pissy that he shuts the camera off. Yeah. He finds, the one engineer in stasis. He also finds a recording that shows him how to work the squishy buttons.
Oh yeah, it starts pulling up maps and all that.
Right, yeah. There's a map and they show it looked like they were going to go to Earth. That was their next destination, That was what was programmed into the computer, whatever, for whatever reason.
And then something happened.
Yeah, well, the room right before the stasis room was full of the cylinders.
Yeah.
So it was loaded to go and they were going to go to Earth with these cylinders. So who knows why? So he goes back to the ship, and at this point, Shaw is super sick. And she basically, talks to David. David's like, "Oh, you're pregnant." And there's a scene earlier where she basically said she can't be pregnant.
She's infertile, right?
Right, yeah. So they say that's impossible. I can't be pregnant. And then she starts having pains. It's it's obvious that this is a weird alien baby thing. So then she goes and gives herself a because there's an auto doc, an auto doc bed that automates surgery, and she goes in there and gets the thing surgically removed. It's a bizarre scene. It's gross.
Well, what's funny is because it was programmed. This is where you find out is that it's programmed for a man.
Right.
She's a woman and didn't know what to do with her womb.
Right.
So essentially, I don't remember what procedure she called it out.
Well, she was abdominal surgery to remove a foreign body.
Yeah. So they couldn't do cesarean.
Right. Yeah. Because it didn't understand. Yeah. So there's this extended scene where it cuts out the thing and then stables her back up. I think the grossest part is when they pull the thing out, the umbilical cord is still attached. And she has to grab it and yank it out herself. That's it's a bad.
It's squid like,
right? Yeah. So she gets cut out. She gets out of there, locks the door, and then goes into the med bay to get help after that. And then that's when we see that Wayland is actually on the ship.
Yeah,
the actual old guy.
Right. We get his villainous monologue, essentially, that he's old, figure, and he wanted funded to find engineers to help find a way to prevent him from dying.
I don't know.
So
I don't know if he really wanted to prevent him from dying. I think that was like a secondary thing. I think the main thing was he just wanted to meet his maker and talk to his maker.
Yeah.
Right. That was like his purpose.
Yeah. So he preps to go leave and go talk to the stasis engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe this is when Vickers, says that's her dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is bizarre.
Plot twist.
Yeah. Because, he says that like David is the closest thing to a son I'll ever have. He's the only child I have. You know what I mean? Like he blatantly says that. It's very weird that she's standing right there when he says it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Right.
But at this point, the guy who fell face first into the liquid comes back looking very gnarly.
Right. Yeah. He looks. You ever see Nightbreed?
No, but he looks like he could have been like a Hills Have Eyes.
Well, there's this guy in Nightbreed that's got like this weird moon shaped head. He looks like that guy.
Yeah. But he's clearly like zombie-ish, like black liquid coming out of his mouth.
Right.
And he kills a couple of people.
Yeah, he kills a bunch of people. Yeah.
Yeah. And eventually he he does get killed, but
he kills a lot of people first, and it takes a lot for him to go down. Like they have to like burn him for an extended period of time before he dies.
Yeah. Right. Let's see here. All this is he Idris Elba still in orbit, yes?
Well, yeah, they're on the ship. They all decide at this point they're all gonna go talk to the maker guy. So like Waylon gets in his weird like little exosuit thing to help him walk.
Yeah.
And then it's like Wayland, David, and they bring Shaw with them because now like she's all like, put back together in the med bay. So now they bring her with.
Yeah.
I'm trying to who else was with them? I think that's it. Oh no, there was a security guy or two, but they don't. I mean, they're like red shirts essentially.
Yeah. But I think they realize that the structure actually might house a spacecraft too, and it is the same spacecraft essentially that we see that they investigate on the moon in Alien.
Right.
That weird crescent moon with orb in the middle.
Right.
Type ship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they do go back, and he wants David to wake up the engineer, and David's able to speak to him in some language.
Well, there's a little aside where they showed because David was like alone by himself on the ship while they were traveling, so he had like 4 years to do whatever. And the one thing that they charged him with doing was to learn every language possible and then break that language down into its root parts and then find all the commonality to it. And then they had their theory was that was the language that these people spoke. And that's what he did. That. And so that's why he was able to communicate with them.
Okay.
And again, I will go into my rant about this movie later. In the scene in the movie, when he talks to the engineer, it is not, he doesn't say what he said. He doesn't say what the engineer says. Actually, I don't think the engineer says anything in the theatrical cut of it, right?
Yeah.
Like he talks to the engineer just looks at him and then just rips his hat off.
Yeah, so he rips his head off and essentially beats Waylon with
it. He essentially rips David's head off, smashes Waylon in the head with it. I mean, he doesn't die immediately, but Waylon dies very shortly after this. He easily kills the security dudes, and then the engineer guy walks away.
Yeah, and he's essentially going to go continue the mission that he was on before he was put in stasis and never taken out.
Right.
So he starts firing up the spacecraft. Shaw escapes and talks to Idris Elba. I don't remember his name. and it says, "Hey, he's going to Earth. He was transporting these vials to bring to Earth, essentially to kill humanity. So they created it, but they wanted to destroy it now."
Right.
So I know she's like, "You have to stop this. I don't know how, but you have to stop it." And Vickers is also trying to escape. So like the structured pod hatch doors opening, and they're trying to run before it opens all the way, running through like the opening metal. And it starts to take off, and Idris Elba's character is like, "All right, well, this is going to kill everyone on Earth. We have to stop this." So he crashes their ship into it, and then we get the Prometheus School of Running.
Yeah, I mean, it's goofy because they look right at it. It's not like they're going, "Oh shit, something's coming at me, I'm just running away." No, they look directly at it. They see that it's rolling directly towards them, and they're
in a straight line.
Yeah, and their plan is to run in the exact line that it's rolling in.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't understand.
This is the Prometheus School Running meme for a reason. All they had to go was like 20 feet to one side.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
to the right.
Could have easily made it.
Yeah, so Shaw barely escapes. She gets like roll at the last second.
Right.
Vickers, because she kept running straight, gets crushed.
Right. Genius.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know Shaw then. Yeah. So Shaw's the last one alive, but she still has. Does she have the head, or did the engineer take David's head?
No, she doesn't. She gets the head later on, after the whole confrontation thing.
Yeah, so she goes to the lifeboat that was there that essentially they took to get down. Finds that her baby is all grown up now.
Right.
It's like giant octopus.
Right.
Oh, that's where David's head is. Right?
Well, David's head is still on the other ship.
Okay.
She does the whole confrontation because the engineer is now angry that the ship has crashed. So the engineer is coming after her specifically because he thinks that she's the reason why. Why? Right. Who knows? It doesn't.
Also, assuming to take her ship.
Right. Whatever reason it is, the engineer shows up there, tries to kill her, and then she opens up the door to her baby.
Which is a giant ass face hugger.
It's a giant, monstrous face hugger squid thing. And so they're like fighting and struggling, and then she gets away. And then after she gets away, David contacts her and says, "Hey, come and get me." And he gets there and he's like, "Yeah, by the way, I'm just a head. You gotta help, put my head in a bag and then help my body down. And then, we'll rebuild later, but we're the only ones alive." And then he's like, "Okay, we'll go back to Earth. There's other ships that we can take. There's other ships under the ground."
Right, but she's like, "No, I want to bring the fight to them."
Well, I don't think she wants to fight them. I don't think she wants answers. She wants to know what they did wrong.
What humanity did wrong.
Right, why they're trying to kill humanity. And then I think that's where it ends.
Yeah.
Well, they show the giant face hugger, I guess, killing the engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
That's fair. That's a movie in a nutshell.
Right.
So, I know I saw this in theaters. Came out.
Yeah.
This is if you don't count Alien versus Predator, this is my first Alien movie in theaters.
I believe I saw all of these from Alien 3 to this. I've seen.
Okay. I was probably Alien versus Predator for me.
Alien vs. Predator I wasn't happy with. Alien vs. Predator Requiem I was pissed about. If Prometheus wasn't if it wasn't Ridley Scott and it wasn't as highly pushed as it was, I probably wouldn't have cared because I was very angry at the franchise at this point. Right. I did go.
You need to make note that this is Ridley Scott's return to the franchise.
Right.
His triumphant return. Right. First thought. I I think we got the answers to questions that we kind of had of who the giant people were, what the spaceships were, and stuff like that. It left up a lot more other questions too. That, you know, once this came out, we kind of got like, oh, this is going to lead up to Alien at some point. Don't you worry. It'll take like 5 or 6 movies to get there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have a lot of problems with this movie. And okay, you take this movie, you put it in a time capsule, you separate it from the franchise. It's a good movie, right?
Yes,
it's a good movie. You know, pretty solid acting throughout. You know, like the story makes sense and blah blah blah. But you put it back into the franchise, and it doesn't make sense. The timelines don't make sense. I mean, you look at the technology that this Prometheus has, that's what, like a century before Alien. And you just look at the technology, which is completely, I mean, just bizarrely different. I mean, you look at the spacesuits they had to wear in Alien. They were like these giant, huge, you know, like, you know, no range of motion, goofy looking suits, right? And then like a century earlier, they had like these, you know, sleek, light, you know, bubble helmets. You know, they're like, it's bizarre. How clean everything looks.
It's only 100. Yeah, it's about 100 years.
Right. And it's just so bizarre. And here, the most bizarre part is he made both of them.
Right.
It's very easy for him to go, hey, make this look similar. Hey, make this look the same, but make this 100 years earlier. You know, make their primitive versions of this, you know, the whatever prototype versions of this stuff and put it in there. I understand they had a lot more money to deal with this, but they can't have, you know, technology that's 200 years in the future. That doesn't, you know, it's like way past where Alien was. It's way past where Aliens was. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, again, there's ways to do it right. Like, you look at like the newer Star Wars stuff. Granted, I don't like all of it, but at least when they took like the technology and stuff like that, they did like a kind of like a merging, right? So where it still kind of looks like the 70s aesthetic. You know what I mean? Like how the original Star Wars looked. They tried to keep that look standard, right?
So the era looked the same.
Right. Yeah. So like, I mean, they added technology onto it and stuff to make it look a little bit more modern, which, I mean, you kind of have to. You can't have everything be old all the time. But the way that it looks and stuff like that, they kept true to that. And they've pretty much done that across the board. And like, again, this is Ridley Scott. He made both of these movies, and how he can be so off in this one is just, it's so off-putting. I mean, he could have easily made rules, easily told these people what he wanted. And he didn't do anything. I understand he didn't write it, but he was the one that he's responsible for this thing. I mean, I like Ridley Scott. He's done a lot of good movies and stuff, but when you hear him talk about this franchise, it's like infuriating. You know, like he thinks that because he made the first one that he owns the franchise.
And writes the rules.
And that everyone else that's made anything in this franchise is doing it wrong because they didn't ask him about it first. You know, so he's basically not going to follow what anyone else did because he wants to do his own thing. So in his mind, he's making it a prequel to his movie, and he doesn't care about any of the other movies.
Correct.
And he also doesn't care about any of the books and comics. And I mean, obviously he doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff because he's too arrogant to probably even recognize that it's even there. And it's very off-putting because you look at the timelines of this. I mean, like you look at the timeline of Alien. I mean, it very specifically says that this alien spacecraft is a derelict spacecraft that's been there for centuries.
Yep.
And it has alien eggs that, spoiler alert for this, for the next one here, that eventually they show as being developed in this time frame.
Yes.
Right? So like, okay, 100 years before Alien is when they finally perfected, in quotes there, what the alien looks like. Right? Even though those eggs have existed, you know, you look at Alien versus Predator, you look at how many books and
those existed hundreds of years.
Yeah, I mean, they've been existing in that form for centuries, if not millennia. Right? And now he comes along and says that it wasn't even made in that way until not even a century before Alien.
Until David.
Which is bizarre. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you do that? I mean, how arrogant do you have to be to basically go, well, you know, fuck all you guys. You know, even James Cameron, who is probably a bigger filmmaker than he is at this point, right?
Yeah.
He's basically saying, hey, I don't like your movie, so I'm going to make a movie that directly, goes against your movie because I want to be an ass.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel about it. Again, the movie is not a bad movie. It's a well-made movie, and the story makes sense in its own little world. But again, attached to this franchise is stupid. I mean, I'm glad they took the alien out of the name, but it still tries to be in that world, and it just fails. I mean, it just makes me so angry trying to get my head around how you can be so stupid and not even stay true to your own movie, that you're arrogant and say this is the only movie that you care about in your franchise, and you can't even stay true to your own movie.
Right.
It's so infuriating. And the other major problem that I have with this movie is earlier in Damon Lindelof's career, he thought that the way to add mystery and intrigue into a movie was to remove necessary plot information. So like you take the regular story, like, oh, this is not mysterious enough. Let's take away plot information that was written into the script and is the whole reason why the ending of the movie happens, and we'll just erase it. So then it becomes a bizarre, ending to where the engineer is just hunting people and trying to kill them for no reason at all.
Correct.
It doesn't have a reason other than what? It doesn't like people. I mean, it doesn't have anything. I mean, and in the original cut of the movie, like you watched, the deleted scenes and shit like that, there is a whole scene where David has a conversation with the engineer, and it's subtitled.
So it was filmed.
Yeah, it was filmed. It made sense. There's a reason why the engineer is angry that it was woken up. There's a reason why it's trying to kill everybody there. And basically, when it gets woken up, it realizes that when it looks at the faces of the people that woke him up, it realizes that these are not engineers. These are inferior kind of copies. And he knows that because he's infected. Because the infection is the thing that killed all the people in the facility. He's infected. He was put into hypersleep until they could find a cure. And when he was woken up by them, he realized that he was now dead because they killed him because they, woke him up without realizing what they were doing. So he was pissed. They were trying to ask him questions, and he said, "You won't understand because you're just lowly beings or whatever." And he was basically pissed that they killed him because he was infected. Then he basically realized that they had been infected and let out the infection. And so now he has to kill everyone to make sure that the infection does not get off the planet.
Yeah.
So it makes sense what he was doing from his thing. But again, Lindelof has to be a part of it, and that's the way that he likes to build mystery, is to remove necessary plot information. So instead of subtitling and leaving that conversation in place, he removes all subtitles, removes all that conversation, and now he just gets angry and kills everybody for no reason. There's no subtext as to why he's doing this. He just does.
Right.
And again, it's just bizarre. I mean, don't get me wrong. David Lindelof has done some good things. I think later in his career, he's getting better. But early in his career, that's what he was doing. Lost. He was a big writer on Lost. He was the co-creator of Lost. And that's what he did. That's how you build mystery in Lost. Is just remove necessary plot information. So now you have no clue what's going on. Nor can you figure it out because not enough information is there for you to put it together. And that was his basically MO. That's how he did everything up until this point.
Now, does this make you a rewatch hard to do for you?
It is. And it like I said, it's frustrating because the movie is good. It's a good movie on its own. But when you watch it, especially now, I watched all of these movies before Prometheus, then I got angry just, at how he can't even follow his own timeline. I understand he didn't write it, but again, he can understand what he's making. It's just, it's
That's
infuriating.
Fair.
It's very hard for me to watch. So the rating of the movie by itself is different than when you put it in the franchise rating.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I know, my first thoughts and rewatch is this. I completely agree. It doesn't fit with the Alien franchise. It needs to be something else. And I don't know if we're ever going to see the end of this vision what his initial idea is. We have still 3 or 4 more movies he has planned before the merger happened, before Fox was bought. So we don't know if it's ever going to be answered. We don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't really care if this stuff is answered. Like, this one and Covenant that comes after it. I mean, they're not bad, but I don't really care. I mean, I really want to see more in the future. You know what I mean? Like, that's the interesting thing when the aliens are already established. Like, I don't really give a shit that much about their origin.
How they got here.
Right. I mean, it's an interesting story, but again, he told it wrong, and now you can't retell it.
Right.
So,
so let's get into the highlights. What do you think your highlights are for this movie?
I mean, I like the performances in it. I mean, I think that
the cast,
Clarice Theron and Idris Elba. I mean, Guy Pearce, even though he's got weird old guy makeup on, he did a great job. I mean, Michael Fassbender he's amazing in just about everything he's in, but he does a fantastic job, playing the weird alien, or not alien, android character. You know what I mean? Like he does a good job at it. I think overall, I mean, it's good. I mean, again, the technology looks cool. The effects are cool. All this stuff. These are all done well, but you put it in the greater franchise and they don't make any sense. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, that absolutely the cast, the effects are great, but yeah, low points in the franchise. You nailed it. You really did. I mean, not much more to discuss on it, but we're keeping this in the franchise. How many chest bursters out of 10 would you give this?
Chest bursters out of 10, just based on what he did to his own stuff, a 5. I'll give it 5 chest bursters out of 10. Now, if this movie was just a standalone movie outside of the Alien franchise, if I could remove that alien aspect of it, it would probably be an 8. Because it is a decent made movie. I mean, I do like the movie. I just hate that it's an aliens movie.
That's fair. I rewatched this enough, so with that in mind, I do have to give it a 7, just because it is something I can rewatch with it. So I'm hoping that we'll tie this all well together. But I mean, overall, even in the franchise, I do like it better than the Alien 3. It's on par for Alien Resurrection for me. Just because the cast made it so good.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, again, I would take it out of the Aliens franchise, and I would give it an 8. It's not a bad movie. I just those major franchise things, they take down a point, each one that makes me angry. There's 3 major points, so now it's down to 5.
Yeah. All right. You want to take us home?
Sure.
All right.
So we have Alien Covenant. And this movie starts with it's a big colony ship that's going to a colony to be colonized.
Yes.
So everybody's like in hypersleep. The only one that's awake is Walter, the android. Walter, the android, looks exactly like David, the android, from Prometheus. And this is set, I believe, 10 years later.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 10 years after Prometheus. So it's still pre-Alien, but after Prometheus. So, they're basically going to their destination, which is some planet in the middle of nowhere. They have to like recharge their batteries, I guess, with these solar sails. They have to do it. It sounds like once a year, because they said they had to do it 8 times and they were like 7 years away from their destination. So it sounds like they have to do it like once a year anyway. So as he puts out all these big sails that have to like roll out, from the ship, this big like square configuration. Essentially they get hit with a big solar flare, like a big, neutrino wave, whatever. That knocks loose one of the things, but also like surges power through the whole ship. So like a lot of, stuff, gets blown out because it's a power surge. So like a lot of the colonists die because most of them are all in like freezer sleep, cryo sleep,
long-term storage.
Yeah, but they're like there's like 2,000 colonists. They also got like weird embryos frozen in storage or whatever.
Right. Essentially, they're looking for a next Earth to inhabit.
Right. Yeah. So, so they're all going to wake up. The crew, like emergency gets woken up. Some of the people are like stuck in the pods. They have to open them. The captain gets stuck in the pod. They cannot open up his pod. He ends up lighting on fire inside of it.
Great use of James Franco.
Yeah, poor James Franco gets burned up in his 1 second of time in this movie.
Yes.
So yeah, they can't open it up. So he dies. So the second in command guy has to take over it. He seems like kind of like your typical jittery, nervous kind of guy. Also a man of faith, a self-described man of faith. Anyway, so he takes over. He's obviously not really liked by everybody else. Like he even like denies them to have like a funeral for the captain. Like, he's like, it's all, we didn't need to get to work. We need to do this stuff, blah, blah, whatever. So they, kind of defy him by having a funeral anyway, but he doesn't get invited. But anyway, I guess we should also mention that, there's 14 crew, I believe. And there's 7 married couples.
Yes.
Because they're going to be colonists. So, their families are going out there. Let's see, who's the main people? Billy Crudup is the XO who's now the acting captain. Let's see, Danny McBride plays Tennessee. Geez, I don't really know many of the other people. I mean, obviously James.
We have Michael Fassbender.
Oh yeah, well yeah, Mike Fassbender playing Walter. And we'll talk about later. I think that's it. I don't really know anybody else. I mean,
the main woman, Daniels, she's in Harry Potter Fantastic Beasts franchise.
Okay.
That's all I know.
All right. Okay. So yeah, so those are the only main people. Anyway, so yeah, they have their their kind of standoff between them. Anyway, they have to fix the ship, so they go out. Tennessee is out there reeling in the one of the sails that got ripped loose. And as he's reeling it in, he's like way out, far away from the ship. He gets hit with this like wave that is like some kind of transmission. So he comes back in. They watch the transmission and they figure out that it's somebody singing John Denver, Country Roads, but it's through like a weird kind of alien noise filter kind of thing.
This is like goddamn John Denver,
right?
I recognize him anyway,
right? So they find out the point of origin of this thing, and they find out that it's only like a couple weeks away. This planet, and the planet has better like numbers than the planet that they're traveling to.
Right, just for colonization and for humans and all that stuff.
Yeah, so it's got like a better atmosphere, better blah blah. All things are better. So this is like a better candidate for them to colonize rather than this other planet they're going to. And instead of making the decision, he's like, okay, well, let's go check it out. We don't have to make the decision that we're going to colonize this place, but let's go check it out, see what this, transmission is. Because it's obviously it's a human transmission. They're singing John Denver. Obviously, they're human, right?
Right.
So they go to this planet. They land on the planet. There's like a constant hurricane on the planet, kind of, sort of. So they land okay, but very quickly, they start having interference with people on the ground. Anyway, so they're all moving. I want to say like 10 of them are down there.
Oh yeah, because Tennessee and I think 2 other people stay up with.
Right.
Yeah, so there was 14 originally.
Well, there's sorry, Jesse Smollett is one of the other people in this movie.
Okay. So yeah, it'd have to be 10 because 1's dead and 3 are left up.
Well, three are left up there. 1 is left back at the landing thing.
Yeah.
So then, there would be 10 of them. Yeah. Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter all that much. Anyway, so the lander, technically 11 of them go down there to go check out this stuff. They land there, they get out, the air is fine, they can breathe everything. They're walking, they see like way overgrown wheat, but it's a very obviously wheat, like from Earth.
Right.
So they're like, okay, well, someone like was here and cultivated stuff. It has to be human, right? So they're going through the one the XO's wife is like a I don't know, biologist or something. She wants to like take samples of the soil and stuff like that. So one of the security guys stays with her, and then the rest of them continue on. They end up finding a ship, one of the alien ships, and it's essentially they find evidence that Elizabeth Shaw was there.
Yes.
So they find her like her dog tags and I think like a picture of her and the doctor guy.
Right. Holloway.
Right. Yeah. So they end up finding the control panel where she left the message. And so they figure out that it came from there. But the spaceship is like, derelict. It's been obviously been crashed. It's got big holes in it and stuff. It's not going anywhere. And the technology doesn't seem to be working other than sending a message. So they decide to head back. As they're heading back, the security guy that's helping the XO's wife take samples, he goes out for a smoke and gets squirted in the face with black stuff that comes out of some kind of puffball mushroom thing or something.
Right.
So he ends up getting really, really sick and deteriorating really, really fast. So they immediately, she grabs him and brings them back to the lander because they'll get there before the other people catch up to them. So another guy, when they're looking around the ship, he also gets black stuff shot into him from puffball mushroom. So they get sick, so they need to bring him back too. Anyway, so as they're going to, the XO's wife and the security guy, as they're getting to the ship, like he's getting really, really, really bad. He starts like puking blood all over the place. Like it's not good. So yeah, the lander lady is Tennessee's wife, and she's like panicking. She's like freaking out. Like, she doesn't know what to do. She's screaming for help. Like the ship up top. Well, the Covenant is the name of the big ship. They can't communicate with Covenant because the storm is preventing them from getting there. There's a lot of interference. So basically they bring it in. She tries to like quarantine them by putting them in the med bay. And kind of sort of locking the door behind them. And then as they're in there, like they take off his shirt to check out what's going on. He's like starts like spraying blood out of his back. And yeah, she locks the door. She's got blood all over her face. She tries asking the captain guy, "What do I do?" And he's too far away, because they're dealing with their own sick guy trying to get him back. And then so, she goes back to the room and now she watches, like a, what do you call it? A proto chest burster, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Break out of the guy's body, like after he's having convulsions and stuff. So there's like, this thing's running all over the place. There's blood all over the place. The XO's wife is like on the ground, like trying to fight it with a knife, and it like just goes up and just starts tearing her face apart and like just tearing her apart. So the one lady, she opens up the door and goes in there with a shotgun to kill the thing. Slips and falls on a puddle of blood, and misses. And so then the alien thing gets out. So she's like chasing it with the shotgun, shooting it around. It looks like she hits it a couple times, but it's still going. And as she's shooting around at this thing, she ends up hitting, I don't know, fuel tanks or something. Who knows what it is? But it blows up, and the whole freaking lander blows up.
Yes.
Just as the other people get close enough to watch it explode. So yeah, the captain, the acting captain guy, watches his wife burn, in there, in the explosion. And as they're watching that, then their own sick dude, he has an alien burst out of him. But they all have guns. So they're all like, trying to shoot this thing, but it still manages. I think it still kills a couple of them.
Yeah.
I know it kills one guy by like ripping his like throat out or something.
Yeah, but it starts going after the main woman.
Right. And then Walter, yeah, the David lookalike, stops it, but he loses a hand in the process.
Right, because he's protecting Daniels.
Right. So yeah, they end up killing that thing, but they're obviously now trapped on the surface. So as they're going to do that, like more of them show up. I guess they say like, "Oh, there's more." I don't know where they would have come from.
I don't know.
But they say there's more. Whatever. So then, some hooded guy comes out. of the woods and shoots like a big daylight flare up in the air. There's like this big bright, flame, and so the alien thing runs away, or alien things, I guess, run away. And he says, "Follow me." So they follow him back to this big city, right?
Yes.
It's like a big city. It's like an engineer city, but as you go in there, it looks like Pompeii because it's all like these, like, people in like these horrible death poses, like all like solidified into statues, and it's like this huge,
essentially a necropolis at that
right,
point.
right, yeah. It's like a huge, like, just open air, like, market look, just a flat open area, but now it's just covered in like dead statue people.
Yeah.
So they make it their way back all the way through this big place into like, whatever their town hall was. I don't know what it was. There's a big like building at the top of the stairs. It's like their capital or something. So yeah, this guy leads them in there. He tells them it's safe. At this point, you see that it's David. And now he is got long hair. He's all like, scraggly looking. He's not wearing any shoes.
Yes, he's become a hippie.
Right. Yeah. He's kind of bizarre. Obviously he says hello to Walter. He just says hello, brother, but that's it. Like, there's not really much else there. People aren't really that surprised. I guess they're used to seeing like multiple models that look the same or something.
Yeah.
I guess they don't understand like who he really is. So they're basically, he shows them what happened. He says that, they were part of the Prometheus. They came there, when they went to land, they, something accidentally happened to where they released all of their payload, which was all the black canisters from Prometheus. And it killed everybody, but he stresses that he did it on accident. And then he said that, Dr. Shaw died during the accident.
Yes.
And that he's been there alone ever since.
Yep.
So then they're trying to communicate back to the ship. They get like really, really spotty connections. They're trying to like ask for help, but they can't really get a clear, communication in there. Tennessee keeps like trying to bring the ship closer to the planet. And they're like, pushing past safety standards, whatever.
Fighting the storm.
Fighting the storm, trying to get communications to them. They finally get some communications to them, and they say, hey, bring the cargo loader down. So they decide to do that. And as everybody's like trying to clean up and like, recover from like the attack in the in the wheat field that they had, it seems like David is, doing nefarious stuff. Like, first thing he does is he cuts his hair to look exactly like Walter.
Correct.
Which is just odd, but nobody seems to comment on that or anything. And then like people are getting picked off. I'm trying to because he lets the other alien in, the one that had been chased away before.
Yes.
He let that one in. It killed that one lady that was trying to wash her arms that were injured.
Yeah.
It kills her. Then, other people, like, they see, her dead or whatever. And they're, because they're trying to find everybody to gather everybody up to leave. And at this point, David takes the captain and brings him down in like this basement because he says he's going to tell him what really happened.
Well, because the captain shoots the thing, which enrages David.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. He kills the thing that kills the lady.
Yeah.
And he gets all pissy about that. And he's like, oh, come with me. I got to show you something. And he brings him into the basement. And then we see like the traditional eggs I'd say like they're like proto versions. They don't look exactly like it, but they're very
pretty
close.
damn close.
They're pretty close. So it one hatches, the thing comes out, attaches itself to the captain, and then of course we have an extended, or I should say an accelerated time frame of the thing hatching out like almost immediately.
Right.
At that point, everybody's like trying to gather everybody together. They're calling, a bunch of them get killed as they're trying to escape and stuff. They eventually get the cargo thing down. And before everybody gets on there, like Walter and David have a standoff because Walter figures out what they're doing there.
Because he finds parts of Shaw.
Right. Yeah. He finds like Shaw like cut open and like obviously been like weirdly experimented on or something. There's like he's got all kinds of weird, crazy stuff down there. He's got like all these weird diagrams of all these aliens and like different versions of the chest burster things. Right. He's got like an engineer that he's got like plasticized that he like peeled apart. And there's all kinds of weird stuff down there. So I mean, obviously he's been doing weird, crazy stuff.
But he's saying he perfected he made the perfect organ.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah. Then so Walter knows that bad stuff's going on, so they kind of fight. At first, it looks like Walter's doing really well because he's like, it's like basically slaps him down a few times. He's like, yeah, we've had some upgrades since your time or whatever. And then they kind of like fight back and forth. Again, it looks like Walter's doing really well. And then at the end of it, they just kind of cut away. They don't really show you the end of what happened there.
Well, because Walter's able to heal himself. He like gets stabbed in the neck. But this is, you're missing the best part where they had the Walter on David most sexual flute playing lesson I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, well they had that. There was also a scene where he was like straight up kissing him.
Yes,
like obviously David is like unhinged. Like he's obviously
a little bit.
Yeah, like he's obviously like gone off the deep end. But yeah, no, he's not doing well, and there's a lot of weird, crazy stuff going on. He's obviously like obsessed with the aliens. He's like mad that people are killing the aliens. He's obviously breeding them and letting them kill people. Blah blah blah. So anyway, ship comes down. I think the only people left at this point are Daniels, the head of security dude.
Yeah, who gets his face melted off?
He's got like his face melted, and then Walter are the only ones that are alive. Yeah,
because Walter says David's gone.
Right.
He took care of him.
Right. Yeah. So then, Tennessee actually flies the cargo thing down, which is just this little tiny cab. Like, I don't know if all of them survived. How are they all going to fit them in there? They would be standing up like
convenient.
Yeah, it's just like holding each other up. Anyway, so they get there. They get in the little cab thing, and of course, as they're taking off, the alien that hatched out of the captain, jumps on the ship, and then we get like this goofy fight scene between Daniels and the aliens, where she's like attached to the rope, and she keeps falling off of the cargo thing. Like she falls off of it like 3 times.
And uses like the claw
and then
on the ship.
And then she grabs
unbalances
the thing.
it.
Right, yeah. And then she grabs the thing with the claw and then squishes it, which, burns it up, but whatever. But yeah, Tennessee is like saying he's this great pilot, and he like crashes the thing all over the place.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, he's like, from what it looks like, he's a terrible pilot, but whatever. So yeah, they get back up to the freaking ship. Everybody is obviously upset that like, everyone is dead. There's only like one couple left, and that's the couple that stayed on the big ship, and that's Jesse Smollett and his girlfriend. Oh, sorry, his wife. Yeah. So everybody's like prepping and getting ready to go back to sleep so they can go back to their original destination. And of course the younger people have to have bone sessions,
sexy time
before they go in there. They're having their bone session, and of course they get attacked and murdered. And their thing, they show like a person dead in the medical thing, but I don't know who that would be.
It was the guy with the half melted face.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense because I never thought about him.
Yeah, he apparently had the face hugger on him.
Oh, right. I didn't catch that. I just saw like a guy in blue like scrubs, and eventually, at first I thought it was the wife, the younger wife, because she was wearing those scrubs earlier because she like has the medical training. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, she's dead. That's weird that they just killed her off like that. And the next scene she was there, I'm like, well, who the hell was on the floor?
Yeah, it's the guy with the half melted face.
That makes sense. Because he didn't show up for the rest of the movie, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the alien kills both of them in the shower. Yeah. Because they were having bone session in the shower.
Yep.
So they have a session in the shower. Daniels and Tennessee are like the only ones left at this point. So they decide that they're going to fight this alien on their home turf, and which is where the vehicles are somehow going into
right. And Walter is there telling them where it's at, monitoring the situation for them as they're going through.
Closing doors behind them and like kind of leading the alien along by like sealing doors and opening doors and stuff like that.
Right.
But I mean, obviously, if you could like just lock it in an area, why wouldn't you just lock it in an area?
I don't know.
Or why wouldn't you just force it out the airlock? Why would you bring it into the whatever? They bring it into this room with all the trucks that they're going to use for their terraforming and their colonization efforts, whatever. So they're all the big vehicles and trucks and stuff that are like really important. They're going to bring them in that room. So they put on spacesuits and they go in there, and their plan is, I guess, to like trap them in a truck and then throw the truck into space.
Yep.
So they do that. They trap it in the truck, and they go to throw the truck into space, and then the truck gets stuck on something, of course. They try to free it up, and the alien gets out of the truck. And as they let the second truck go, the alien, goes to jump into the other truck, and then somehow they make the cow catcher on the truck into like a big stabby thing.
Yeah.
And anyway, the alien gets impaled on that thing. Both of them are fine. But they lose all the trucks and vehicles and stuff, whatever. So they seal everything back up, and then, okay, now they're going to go to hypersleep, and go to the place. And as Tennessee goes to sleep, and then as she's going to sleep, there was a mini little thing earlier where she was going to build a log cabin with her husband, Daniels was, and she told Walter about this, and Walter was like, okay, I'll help you.
Yeah, because Walter's deeply in love with her.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess that was a little side thing that they said, but and so as she's like, she's in the cryo tube, like, as like, oh, are you still gonna help me build that cabin? And he looks at, I mean, I don't know, it's a weird scene because he didn't say anything or do anything, but I guess she understood that he didn't get what she was saying.
Yeah.
And then she immediately goes, David.
Yep.
And he goes, and he just kind of like, smiles, and but anyway,
she's
she's like screaming to get out, but of course the crowd, thing is already cycled and started. And so then, Walter David now goes into the embryo place, and he puts two like alien embryos that he had swallowed earlier into the embryo farm.
And then starts looking at the people frozen, like whistling.
Right. Yeah. So like, essentially he's going to like, whatever, continue his experiments on these colonists.
Yep.
And then the movie's over.
Yep. So what were your first thoughts when you saw this?
I mean, it has less egregious things wrong with it than Prometheus does. Again, like by itself, it's not a bad movie. I would say it fits into the franchise better than Prometheus does. I mean, as a sequel to Prometheus, it's good. I mean, it continues the storyline, I guess. I mean, I'm assuming Noomi Rapace did not want to come back for another one.
Correct.
But I mean, again, it didn't really matter that she wasn't there. I don't think it would have added much to it anyway. But I mean, it's interesting. I know a lot of people don't like this movie. I've heard a lot of people saying bad things about it. I don't think it's bad.
No.
Again, I don't think it's as bad as Prometheus is. It's got a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, I thought the performances did well. I mean, there was some goofy parts, but I mean, they all have goofy parts. But it was okay. I mean, it's not great. It's not bad.
It's definitely better than Prometheus.
Yes,
hands down.
Right.
Better than Prometheus.
Well, again, I think it's just because even though this one is also done by Ridley Scott, it just doesn't break as many rules as Prometheus does. Like Prometheus ruins his own freaking timeline in multiple ways. And this one, even though it's continuation of Prometheus, it doesn't like bring up those things that it broke. At least it just lets them lie.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Now, is this on your rewatch list?
No.
No, okay.
No,
I didn't
it's
think so.
not.
I mean,
I might want to, but then like again, I like watched the first one and the second one. It's hard for me to get to the third one, and then this one's the sixth one.
Hard, it's hard to get to.
It gets harder as it goes along.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's definitely on my rewatch list. It's something I do put on background noise every once in a while. It's just it's kind of like a better ending cap than like the middle of it. Like it's like a little bit of resurgence that we got with the lulls with like Alien versus Predator.
Mm-hmm.
And you would, I agree. Like you expect the guy who created Alien to come back with full force and had that bigger resurgence that we really needed for this franchise,
right?
I mean, other than that, yeah, it's okay.
I mean, again, these were successful. I mean, I'm not going to say that they weren't. Like, I don't particularly like them, but they made money for the studio, so that's why they kept going.
Correct, and there's supposed to be 3 or 4 more.
Well, supposedly, Ed Ridley Scott kept saying, "I'll keep making them as long as people can want to keep watching them."
Yeah, he said that eventually it will tie in exactly to the point of Alien.
Right.
What about highlights for you?
Highlights. I mean, I really like all of the like drawings and like art project things that like David had in there. They're like very disturbing. They have like an almost like I want to say like a Sherlock Holmes villain vibe.
It reads H.P. Lovecraft meets H.R. Geiger.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But like I said, I would also say like Arthur Conan Doyle in there too, because it feels like an 1800s villain. With the way that everything's drawn out and like the way that things and the way that music is involved and just stuff like that. Those are kind of like that. That's a high quality villain at that point.
Right, we get a villain,
right?
Like, straight up villain. That's
correct.
Not Alien,
right?
Yeah, I mean, so the villainy, even though it's not Alien, is your high point, which is interesting. I mean, yeah, the acting was the good. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't up. It was definitely uphill from Prometheus. Did I wish Shaw come back? Yeah, I know she got a lot of crap from being compared to Ridley. Even this actress got compared to Ripley, and they're like, we're not Ripley.
Yeah. I mean,
stop expecting that.
Well, I mean, I to be fair, it is the same franchise. And again, when you have Ripley in 4 movies, and then you start making them without her, it's gonna be weird.
Right. All right. Low points for you though.
Low points. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's like the technology level bothers me.
So far advanced.
Yeah, it's just so far beyond what Alien and Aliens. Forget they're basically all the rest of these. It's so advanced compared to what they have. I don't understand why he thinks it's. I just don't understand what goes through his brain, like how that makes sense in his world. Like he doesn't even attempt.
Not sure it does make sense to him.
Right. I mean, it does not even attempt to like merge them or explain why or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, honestly, the low point is before the fight, the forced sexual tension between Walter and David.
I mean, to be fair, it's
so out of place.
It's weird.
So out of place.
It is weird.
It doesn't. I don't need it there.
Well, I think what they're going for is it's just like like just showing how unhinged and how like mixed up David is. Because they even show it a couple times. I think like Walter made a really good point, is where he because they kept like quoting stuff to each other.
Right.
This is this person saying that, this is this person saying that. Trying to make something like they're even both trying to like out profound each other with quotes and stuff. And then like David says one quote and he says it was by one person, and Walter goes, "No, it's by this other person." And then he makes the thing and he says, just one bad note can ruin the whole symphony. And I think what he's trying to say is that David has a glitch of some kind, and it's enough to unhinge his whole world.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what they were trying to say with that. Is like, yeah, he's doing weird shit, but I think it's not all his fault. He's got some kind of fucking problem. Some kind of
Yeah.
glitch happening. Obviously, his fucking head got ripped off and then put back on. So, I mean, it's not surprising if you would have like a fuck up, and that little fuck up is the thing that's causing him to be like, a murderer, or even worse than that. He's like a genocidal. Yeah, I mean,
the mad scientist
killed. How many of those engineer people were there when he dropped those bombs? Because yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but yeah, he admitted that he purposely did that. He purposely killed all of these people
to create the evolution of the aliens,
right? Because he wanted to force the evolution of the aliens rather than get some answers from the engineers.
Yeah, I mean, another little point for me is it's the David show. Like, it really is. Like, it's not about I understand it's the origins of aliens, but it's not about the aliens. It's about David.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needs to be about David. It's very little alien in these movies.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, again, I think that he's just trying to. I mean, I like David as the villain. I think he's interesting enough. I think there's a lot going on, especially like between like David and Walter. Even though it's Michael Fassbender playing both roles, I thought he did them both good. I mean,
very nuanced. Yeah. It's very nuanced,
right? I mean, like Walter's voice. I mean, it's interesting enough that it's so
American.
Different. Yeah, it's like like a weird, deeper, like a tough guy American voice versus his like lighter English voice. I mean, it's
right.
Yeah, it's well done. I mean, again, I like Michael Fassbender. I think he's a fantastic actor. I think he's been attached to a lot of really bad movies, so people don't think he's that good. But I think he's a fantastic actor. He just does a lot of bad projects.
Right. I mean, is it horror? Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
just the mad science experiment, the genocidal maniac.
Yeah, it's like essentially you have like a Jason's mom situation, right? But like it would be like if Jason's mom and Jason both existed, and Jason's mom was controlling Jason.
Yes,
So yeah, there's somebody behind the controls, but that is also just as evil. But
right, that's fair. All right, so number of chest bursters out of 10 for you on this one.
I will give it a 6.5 chest bursters out of 10. It's
still not
just under the rewatch line.
I 7.5. It's better than Prometheus, but it's still not even close to 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. So kind of wrap this up. We know there's an Alien TV show coming out.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know any more details on that. Where do you want this franchise to go? Do you want to go back to its roots with the franchise? Do you want to? I'm sure you don't want to see this 5 or 6 movie story arc pan out. Obviously, where do you want it to go?
I mean, I really just want more told in the standard Aliens world. I mean, obviously you have, Alien and Aliens, which are obviously directly related, but very different movies. Then you have like Alien 3, which is again, a very different movie. And then you have, Alien Resurrection, again, very different movie. I mean, Ripley stars in all of them, but they're all very different. They're all very different time frames, different things going on. I mean, I would like to see something else in that realm. I mean, right. Ideally, it'd be great if Sigourney Weaver came back, but I guess Sigourney Weaver's getting pretty old now, so I don't know what kind of actiony role that she would get to play at this point. She'd be like a Jamie Lee Curtis, coming back with limited physical action, but still trying to do that. I wouldn't want to do that to her, but I think something in that world would be cool. I think like an actual real, like, Colonial Marines kind of thing where they actually get like a real chance against the aliens. You know what I mean? Not in a situation where they can't shoot at them.
So do you want to see humanity bring the fight to the aliens?
Yeah. I want to see like Starship Troopers, but with Colonial Marines and Xenomorphs. That's what I want to see.
I'm doing my part.
That's what I would. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'd still like to see Alien 5. I know she was in talks with Neil to come back for Alien 5, which would be cool. I don't know what they're going to do with the franchise. I'm hoping the TV show is another story in the universe.
I mean,
really, what I hope.
From what I understand, it's supposed to be, but I mean, who knows? Who knows where things?
We don't know.
Yeah, who knows where?
We don't know. Everyone's hyped for Halo, and look what that turned out.
I didn't watch it. From what I understand, it's not bad. It's just not what the fanboys were hoping it would be.
Correct.
Because again, if you have like an entire season of a show, like of course the main character is going to have to take his helmet off and talk to people, and I don't think they'll like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the TV show, because I know you don't really like Child's Play and Chucky, and the TV show is fantastic. I think we get the right people behind it. The TV show could be fantastic. You know, we're maybe getting a Predator one, that we're getting a prequel to Friday the 13th series. They can't do Jason.
Right.
It has potential, and obviously when it comes out and anything else, we will tack on this. We might even just do the whole, TV show as a whole too. Right. Quite honestly,
I even hate to bring it up because the game gives me so many flashbacks of like horrible things. But the Clone Marines game, the game made by Gearbox, I mean, I don't even know I can't even think of a word bad enough to describe that game. But if you play the story to the end, Hicks actually survives.
Oh, wow.
And Michael Biehn is actually in the game doing the voice of Hicks, like continuing that story. It would have been really cool if that was actually a thing, or if the game wasn't a complete hunk of shit, you know?
You saying it was Jeepers Creepers Reborn?
It's a game that was bad enough for the people who bought the game to sue the company and win.
Yes.
That's how bad the game is. Okay. They sued the company for making a crap game and lying about what they made.
Well, the big thing was the footage.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was direct lie. They said they used in-game footage, and it was very clearly not.
Yes.
But yeah, it's very stupid. I had that game pre-ordered. I was so excited. I was heartbroken.
Yep. Like I said, I know this is your franchise, but yeah, we'll get to the TV show. I think we'll do it as a whole episode when it's done. Yeah. That way we can watch everything.
I believe they have not. I know they have at least one AAA Aliens game in development right now. But there are rumors that there are two or maybe more.
Perfect. I know we played the new Aliens game together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that again, it's
hard.
Yeah. It's just, it's one of those, it's like a Back for Blood kind of game, or,
yeah,
it's like, or Left 4 Dead. Sorry, I know Back 4 Blood is the newer version, but it's like a Left 4 Dead where it's like you have like little missions that you're supposed to play with multiplayer, but there's not any real story to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's again, it's a world that's got so much story to tell. Why are you putting it in that kind of game? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Well, I mean, whatever. That's my own.
We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, it wasn't terrible. I did play it, quite a bit, but
yeah,
it wasn't great.
Stupid hard.
Right.
Stupid hard.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Why don't you bring us out here?
All right. Stay tuned for next week's podcast, where we'll start our 13 sleighs of Christmas for all of December. We will start out with Bad Santas, which includes Christmas Evil, Krampus, and A Christmas Horror Story. I only know one of those.
Yep.
So watch those.
Yes.
So it's going to be all of December, 4 episodes, right?
Yep.
4 episodes.
Yep. 13
December.
movies for 13 sleighs. Yes.
Yay. Okay. So we'll start on that next week. Until then, I am Salem, saying long live the new flesh.
And I'm Graveyard, saying have you checked on the children?
Bye.
Good night.